Part 51. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 502. The call was a greeting call from the agent. Although she became a big star, Luan Xiaolin didn't have many friends around her. Her former classmates and friends were basically cut off due to status barriers. It is even more difficult for artists to become friends, and they are more likely to fight openly and secretly. Apart from Li Jie, the only people closest to Luan Xiaolin are her agent and assistant. Assistant Zheng Hui has been with her for almost 3 years, and the relationship between the two is really good, like sisters. After hanging up the phone, Luan Xiaolin pulled up her chair and sat down at the desk. She took out the script of Super Body from the drawer and flipped through it. Cuckoo Entertainment is expected to go public in the next 2 to 3 years. Fahrenheit was listed last year, and Guangxian is about to go public. As one of the largest private entertainment companies in the country, it is natural to put the listing on the agenda. Only by raising a large amount of funds through listing can we further promote the development of the company and realize the industrialization of films. The chemical industry costs money, and so does film industrialization, which requires high investment, large production, high output, standardization, and processization. Kudong Group is not without money, but burning its own money is not as safe as burning the money of shareholders. Compared with defilming everything, making large sums of money to benefit the people and enriching private interests, and making a big dent in the fortunes of stock investors, Cuckoo Entertainment is at least focusing on making movies and TV shows. Speaking of which, Fahrenheit is also really good at tricking investors into tricking Penguin, and after tricking Penguin into tricking Ari. In order to cope with the listing plan, Cuckoo Entertainment has established nearly 40 projects including movies, animated films, TV series, and online series as its development plan for this year and next. Star U, 1,000 Bones of Flowers, Soul Fairy, That Year in a Hurry, Wuxin Master, Source Code, Big Shot, Pacific Rim 2, Along with the Gods, When Men Are in Love, Angry Birds and more. During the period before and after the Chinese New Year, artists under Cuckoo Entertainment are busy competing for resources. As the first sister of the company, Luan Xiaolin got several top-notch resources without having to fight for them at all. Which two? Super Body, Thieves, Along with the Gods. In particular, Along with the Gods is Cuckoo Entertainment's first top-notch blockbuster produced with industrial standards. It is expected to invest 200 million and take 2 to 3 years. Her resources are so good that other artists in the company are jealous to the extreme. Lu Yufei has only received 2 major productions, and they are all TV series. Star U, 3 Lives 3 Worlds. The only movies available are Pacific Rim 2 and Source Code. She still didn't star in Pacific Rim 2, and Source Code was just a low-budget pseudo-sci-fi film. Nini, Naza, and Zhao Yuhuan each received 2 or 3 movies and TV series. Among newcomers like Zhang Xiao, Zhang Li, Leng Bie, and Zhang Yuxi, the one with the best resources is not Xu Sudan, who has the closest relationship with Li Jie, but Zhao Xiaodao. Flower Thousand Bones, Chef Fang, Wuxin Master, etc., she has won 5 or 6 dramas by herself. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that the company is preparing to favor her. Luan Xiaolin flipped through a few pages and put down the script. The film Super Body will not start filming until next year, 2012. This year she only has one film, Thieves. She is a regular guest on Running Man. Recording the show takes up a lot of time, so she doesn't have much time to take on roles. She only has one movie a year. The company also positions her for the big screen and will basically not arrange any more TV series for her. Dong dong, there was a knock on the door suddenly. Lin. Mom, come in. Luan's mother opened the door and walked in. She looked at her daughter and said, "Have you finished making the phone call?" She also saw that Luan Xiaolin was unwilling to deal with those relatives and friends. "Mom, What's wrong with you? Luan Xiaolin asked. Linlin, what do you think of that Wu Haihao? Mom, you're not going to introduce me to a partner, are you? I'm a celebrity. How can a celebrity get married too early? I just think that Wu Haihao's conditions are really good. He is tall and handsome, and he is a top student in a prestigious overseas school. His family is also in good condition. Luan's mother showed a pity expression on her face. Linlin, when are you going to get married? It must be more than 30 anyway, Luan Xiaolin said casually. Marry? She never thought about getting married. More than 30, Luan's mother couldn't help raising her voice. It's too late then. Your dad and I are still waiting to have our grandson. Mom, why don't you and my dad work harder and get me a younger brother? What are you kidding about? Your dad and I are both over 40. What's wrong with being over 40? There is a female star in our industry whose mother gave birth to a younger brother when she was in her 40s. Luan Xiaolin didn't say a word. Many people rumored that this child was the daughter of that female star. The mother and daughter joked for a while, and Luan's mother suddenly said, Linlin, are you in love? Luan Xiaolin was caught off guard by the question and couldn't help but be stunned, her expression a little unnatural. Fortunately, she is an actress, and her expression quickly returned to normal. No, I am so busy now that I don't have time to fall in love, and I don't plan to fall in love too soon. No, Luan's mother carefully observed Luan Xiaolin's expression. Amoru Omua, a close friend, felt that her daughter was definitely hiding something from them. Linlin, I know that your celebrity relationships are private and cannot be made public, but you can't even hide it from your dad and me, right? Tell me the truth. Mom, I didn't hide it from you and my dad on purpose, but his identity is a bit sensitive. Then who is he? It's Li Jie. Li Jie? Who is Li Jie? Ah, the big boss of your company, the Li Jie who is worth more than 20 billion. Well, that's him, but what? He's more than just my girlfriend. Mother and daughter Zhang Wenjun, Lu Yufei didn't stay long, and left one after another after sitting for a while. Li's mother and Li Jie sent Lu Yufei and Liu's mother to the gate of the villa together. When Lu Yufei and Liu's mother got into the Mercedes-Benz G and left, Li's mother and the others looked at Li Jie. Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian both admired their second brother so much that even Lu Yufei could catch him. Just now, Lu Yufei and Liu's mother acted as if they were relatives bringing their daughter to the house. Although Zhou Ziyu and Wang Haining are not worse in appearance than Lu Yufei, Zhou Ziyu is even better. But Lu Yufei is a well-known star, and with the added aura of stardom, it is even more shocking, especially for girls like Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian who grew up watching Lu Yufei's dramas. Li Hepeng's eyes were filled with envy and jealousy. There were few young people in this period who were not interested in Lu Yufei. Just because she was the earliest heroine in domestic entertainment novels, it is evident that people are still writing about her more than 10 years later. Mother Li felt very annoyed. Her second son had done too many messy things, and she didn't know how many girls he had provoked. She decided to come here less often in the future, out of sight and out of mind. Seeing Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu staring at him dissatisfied, Li Jie smiled, changed the subject and said, by the way, we haven't finished posting the couplets yet. Let's continue posting the couplets. 2 years later in the afternoon, the Zijiao Hotel delivered the New Year's Eve dinner ordered. 32 dishes are enough to fill a large table, and there is a dazzling array of high-end ingredients such as bird's nest, truffle, sea cucumber, abalone, king crab, caviar, and Boston lobster. Li Hepeng, Han Fei, Cheng Shuang, and Cheng Qian were all stunned. Isn't this too luxurious? Especially the big lobster is 1 meter long. I don't know how expensive it is. There are also many high-end ingredients that they don't know at all. In fact, the most expensive thing is not the Boston lobster, but the black truffle and caviar. A gram and truffles cost thousands, and top-quality Boston lobster only costs 2 or 3,000 a pound. Most of these high-end ingredients were ordered by Li Jie from abroad, and the Zhejiao Hotel only processed them on their behalf. After Cheng Shuang was stunned for a few seconds to react, he quickly took out his phone and started taking photos. "I'll take some pictures first." She might only be able to eat such a top-notch meal once in her life, so she quickly took photos and showed off on her WeChat friends. Cheng Qian took out her cell phone and started taking pictures. Han Fei couldn't help but want to take some photos with her phone, but after taking a look at Li Jie, she couldn't help but feel embarrassed. After all, she is Li Jie's sister-in-law and is considered an elder. Mother Li looked at the dazzling array of high-end ingredients on the table, and her first thought was how much would it cost? She turned to look at Mother Li. "Xiao Jie, the food on your table must not be cheap, right? How much did it cost?" Li Jie smiled and did not answer directly. "Actually, it's not that expensive." Although he is now worth tens of billions, he has never eaten so luxuriously. He feels that this is a bit too nouveau riche. "How much is it if it's not that expensive?" 100,000, Mother Li guessed. The last time she spent 30,000 to 40,000 yuan, not counting red wine, for a meal at the Zhejiao Hotel, she felt that today's meal was much richer, and more expensive, than last time. "I tried my best to guess as boldly as I could." Zhou Ziyu couldn't help but smile. She thought this future mother-in-law was quite interesting. 100,000. Adding a zero is almost enough. "Why did I say less?" Mother Li noticed the smile on the corner of her mouth. Her second son's girlfriend is the most flirtatious and the most spendthrift. Mother Li actually liked Zhou Ziyu when she first met her. Not only was she beautiful, but she was also well-behaved and sensible, and she was also a good cook. The only drawback is that she is too pretty. But I am afraid of comparison in everything. She is not as charming as a good-looking girl, and is not as popular with the elderly as Xiao Jiao, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi. In addition, her ability to spend money, prodigal, cannot be hidden, which makes people like Li's mother, who has been frugal all her life, look down upon her. "Ah, aunt, you called me." Zhou Ziyu was stunned for a moment, as if he was distracted before he came back to his senses. With her on-the-spot reactions and acting skills, it would be a waste of her talent not to become an actress. Xiao Qiao was originally prepared to see Zhou Ziyu's joke, but she didn't expect to be dodged by her so easily, and she couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. "Vixens just know how to act," she muttered in her heart. Li Zhepeng said a little impatiently, "Mom, don't worry about money all the time. Just feel free to eat. Ziyaji is not short of money now." If he had a choice, he would rather Li Jie give him the money for the meal in cash. After everyone sat down, Li Jie picked up the red wine that the waiter had poured into the decanter and poured some into Mother Li's wine glass. "Mom, try this red wine." Mother Li picked up the wine glass and tasted it, looking like she was not used to it. "It tastes similar to last time. It's not sweet and sour, but it feels a little spicy." "How much does this red wine cost?" The red wine she drank at the Zhejiao Hotel last time cost more than 10,000 yuan per square meter. She felt that it was not as delicious as the red wine, blended with grape juice, that cost 5 yuan for a small bucket before. At least it was a little sweet. "It's a little more expensive than the last drink," Li Jie said with a smile. "This bottle of red wine costs more than 100,000 yuan. Is it more expensive than the wine last time?" Mother Li shook her head with a look of disapproval. "You should drink this wine, I can't get used to it." "Auntie, try this. This wine is delicious." Xiao Qiao gave her a glass of sweet fruit wine. Mother Li tasted it again and was indeed quite satisfied this time. Seeing Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian looking longingly at the Boston lobster and king crab, Li Jie gave them each a large piece of lobster meat, and then asked everyone to start. "Mom, hurry up and eat." This big lobster is so delicious, Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian devoured it. This Boston lobster weighs 12 kilograms and has been growing for nearly 100 years. Canada only catches 3,000 lobsters every year and supplies them to the world. People who are not really rich can't afford it. Not only Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian, but also Li Zhepeng and Han Fei were a bit wolfish. Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, and Lu Kaiyu ate very gracefully. They rarely moved their chopsticks, and they mostly introduced ingredients and picked up dishes for Mother Li. They have been with Li Zhe for so long that they have already eaten all kinds of high-end ingredients, and there is no freshness anymore. Only Shen Xinyi looked like she was enjoying her food. As long as it was delicious food, she would never get tired of it. "Auntie, try this caviar." Zhou Ziyu scooped a spoonful of caviar for Mother Li. Mother Li picked up the caviar and smelled it, then put it in her mouth, chewed it, and swallowed it. This caviar tastes quite crisp, but it's a little fishy and salty. Li Zhepeng couldn't help but said, "Mom, you need to feel the taste after chewing this caviar. If you swallow it directly, it will be a waste." He has worked as a waiter in a big hotel for more than a year, and he knows a little bit about how to eat high-end ingredients. Li Zhe smiled lightly and said, "It's just caviar. You can eat it however you want. It doesn't require much attention." He knew that Li Zhepeng's words were not just for his mother, but also for him. When he ate caviar just now, he chewed it and swallowed it. Of course Li Zhe knew how to eat caviar, even if he didn't know Zhou Ziyu. But caviar is a luxury product to ordinary people, but to him it is just an ordinary ingredient. He can eat it however he wants, so there is no need to pay so much attention to it. When people reach a certain level, they can be casual. Just like Jack Ma, even if he wears a pair of old cloth shoes all day long, no one will say that he is vulgar or unconventional. Instead, they will praise him for being low-key. Even if Li Zhe really doesn't know how to eat caviar, no one really thinks that he can't eat it, and they will only praise him for his informality. Having money means being reasonable. After eating the group meal for more than an hour, Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian, who were very worthless, were so full that they couldn't sit still, so they had to lie down on the sofa. After finishing the meal, Li Zhe sat with his mother for a while, and then went back to the room with Xiao Jiao and the others. "Thank you all for your monthly votes, enough for 1,000. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 503. Li Zhe gave up the largest master bedroom on the third floor to his mother, so he went to Xiao Jiao's second bedroom with Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and Wang Zhaining. This second bedroom is also very large, almost 30 square meters, with a 2-meter large bed, a separate dressing room, a small living area, and a 180-degree large floor-to-ceiling window. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, you can clearly see the garden view of the Zijiao Hotel next door. The scenery is excellent. Back in the room, Li Zhe hung his coat on the hanger and pulled Xiao Jiao and the others to the bed. Fortunately, the bed is big enough, otherwise 6 people would not be able to sit on it. Looking at Xiao Jiao and the other 5, who were dressed in hanfu and looked as beautiful as little fairies, Li Zhe felt particularly satisfied at this moment. He kissed each of their beautiful faces and reached out to hold all 5 of them in his arms. However, there are so many people that it's hard to hug him. He was playing outside, but in his heart, the 4 of them, Xiao Jiao, the 5, were the most important. Li Zhe was satisfied. Xiao Jiao and the 5 of them in his arms looked at each other, but they couldn't deal with it. After staying together for a while, Li Zhe let them go. After being let go by him, Xiao Jiao and the others immediately distanced themselves from each other. "How about we play a game?" Li Zhe looked at the beautiful hanfu on Xiao Jiao and the others and his heart moved. Their clothes are more beautiful than any other uniforms. "What game?" Xiao Jiao asked. "Have a great adventure." Xiao Jiao and the others were a little surprised when they heard this. Li Jie used to be very resistant to playing this game, so why did he suddenly change his mind? The winner can assign the loser to do one thing. Anything is fine. You can't refuse. Li Jie just doesn't like playing truth or dare, but that doesn't mean he doesn't like playing dare. When Xiao Jiao and the others heard this, they immediately understood what Li Jie was planning. The five of them made eye contact with each other and said with a smile, "Okay. They are going to join forces again to murder their husband. No, they are going to deal with him together." However, a grown man like him would still be afraid of these five girls. He won't suffer no matter what, right? Li Jie found a new deck of playing cards, tore open the seal and took out the cards. "Let's play blackjack." He explained the rules of blackjack. Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and Wang Haining looked at each other as if discussing. "Stop playing blackjack, let's just play blackjack." Xiao Jiao said, took the playing cards from Li Jie's hand, then took out the kit and started shuffling the cards. "We take turns to draw and play cards. The first person to show all the cards in his hand is the winner, and the person with the remaining ghost cards in his hand is the loser." This gameplay is obviously more beneficial to Xiao Jiao and the others. As long as the five of them can work together, Li Jie will be beaten to death. However, can they really work together? After everyone finished drawing the cards, Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Shen Xinyi, Lu Kaiyu, and Wang Haining exchanged glances with each other, trying to determine who was holding the big ghost. As a result, all five of them shook their heads. Seeing this scene, Li Jie couldn't help but laugh. He didn't have a big ghost in his hands, so one of the five of them must have lied. Noticing Li Jie's reaction, Xiao Jiao and the others also thought of this and immediately became suspicious of each other. Xiao Jiao was even more angry. "We had agreed to deal with this big pig like Li Jie together, so why are you still being cautious?" She looked at Zhou Ziyu aggressively, suspecting that he was lying. "Who makes her the most cunning and deceptive?" Zhou Ziyu's expression was very calm. "Let's not get into trouble. He might have done it on purpose." Hearing what Zhou Ziyu said, Xiao Jiao and the others all looked at Li Jie's face again, becoming even more doubtful and suspicious. "Which one of us will draw the card first?" Shen Xian asked. "Xiaoning, come first." Li Jie glanced at Wang Haining and said. Wang Haining was the last to draw cards, with one less card than Li Jie and Xiao Jiao, only 8. Wang Haining drew a card from Lu Kaiyu's hand beside her, and then played a pair of fives. Obviously she drew a 5. Lu Kaiyu also played a card from Shen Xian's hand beside him, but the card he drew did not match the deck in his hand, so there was no playing. After drawing a few rounds of cards like this, everyone will have very few cards in their hands. Zhou Ziyu has at most 4 cards in his hand, and Li Jie has at least 2 cards in his hand. When it was Zhou Ziyu's turn to draw cards again, she drew 1 card from Wang Haining's remaining 3 cards. She was stunned for a moment, then took a deep look at the opponent and turned to Xiao Jiao and the others and said, "I drew the big one ghost." She was undoubtedly telling Xiao Jiao and the others that the liar was Wang Haining. When Xiao Jiao, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and others heard this, they all looked at Wang Haining in surprise. Facing the accusing looks of Xiao Jiao and others, Wang Haining didn't care. How could she deal with Li Jie with Xiao Jiao and the others? Li Jie was her man, and her only support was the father of the child in her belly. But Xiao Jiao and the others are just her love rivals. Zhou Ziyu couldn't help but feel nervous when she saw Wang Haining's appearance. In the past, like Wang Haining, she stood on Li Jie's side without any principles, but now this role has been replaced by the other party. In the end, Li Jie won the game. He was very lucky. He drew 2 pairs of cards from Zhou Ziyu and was the first to sell out all the cards in his hand. The ghost card was left in Zhou Ziyu's hand. "Honey, what do you want me to do?" Zhou Ziyu put down the cards in his hand and asked with a smile. Li Jie smiled and looked her up and down. "Xiao, I won't embarrass you, just kiss Xiao Jiao. He said and glanced at Xiao Jiao. No, the person who objected loudly was not Zhou Ziyu but Xiao Jiao. She was still waiting to see how Li Jie would play with Zhou Ziyu, preferably something exciting, but she didn't expect that the fire would actually burn her. Zhou Ziyu looked at Xiao Jiao and slowly leaned towards her. Xiao Jiao subconsciously moved her body back and said cautiously, "Zhou Fox, I tell you, don't." But before she could finish speaking, Zhou Ziyu pushed her down on the bed, lowered her head and kissed her. When their lips met, Xiao Jiao's eyes widened instantly and she looked at Zhou Ziyu in disbelief. As if to say, "How dare you?" Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and Wang Haining looked at this very loving scene with strange and slightly excited expressions. Especially Shen Xinyi was the most curious and excited. Li Jie suddenly remembered what the second master said at the end of Westward Journey when he returned home in glory after winning the first prize in the examination and reunited with his two ladies. Hard-working lady grinding tofu, hard-working lady grinding tofu. Does this count as greening himself? After being stunned for a few seconds, Xiao Jiao came to his senses, pushed Zhou Ziyu away, sat up from the bed, wiped his mouth repeatedly with his hand, and vomited several times. Zhou Ziyu smiled and wiped his mouth. "Jiao Bao, are you blushing?" Li Jie found that Xiao Jiao's face turned red. Although Xiao Jiao used to play crazy, he still blushed easily. It's so pure and lusty. However, after being together with Li Jie for a long time and becoming so familiar with each other, she rarely blushed. Seeing Li Jie speak, Xiao Jiao immediately turned her anger to him. "Ah, it's all your fault," she suddenly jumped on Li Jie and started beating him randomly. "Okay, let me make it up to you," Li Jie said and kissed Xiao Jiao on the lips. In the second game, Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi were really united and looked at each other's cards directly. Looking at Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu who were doing nothing, Li Jie was a little puzzled. Didn't they almost get into a fight just now? Is it really, that you have feelings? Two twos, haha, I won. Xiao Jiao threw the last two cards on the bed with a proud look on his face. Li Jie threw the remaining cards on the bed, one of which was the big ghost. 4 against 2, and with Zhou Ziyu as the strategist offering advice, Xiao Jiao and the others' chances of winning suddenly increased. More than 10 rounds of cards were drawn in this round, and the big ghost card was tossed back and forth, and finally fell into Li Jie's hand. "Jiao Bao, what do you want me to do, or do you want me to kiss you again? You think beautifully." After finally catching Li Jie once, how could Xiao Jiao let him go so easily? "You said you were." She suddenly stopped mid-sentence. "Wait a moment, let's discuss it first." Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu put their heads together and discussed quietly. "You still have something to discuss." Shen Xinyi didn't know what he said. After hearing this, Xiao Jiao and the others looked at each other with strange smiles on their faces. Li Jie watched from the side, and a bad feeling suddenly arose in his heart. They wouldn't really come up with any harmful tricks to deal with him, would they? "Honey, please wait a little longer." After the discussion, Xiao Jiao said to Li Jie with a smile and went to the cloakroom. Looking at her back, Li Jie had a bad feeling in his heart. After a while, Xiao Jiao came back with a set of clothes in his hand. "Hubby, put it on." She threw her clothes on the bed. Looking at the clothes on the bed, Li Jie's expression suddenly changed. "This is a set of women's shirt and pleated skirt, and a pair of black silk." "Husband, put it on quickly," Xiao Jiao urged with a smile. She smiled very narrowly. "Fortunately, there is a set of large sizes, otherwise you wouldn't be able to wear them." Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi also had uncontrollable smiles on their faces. The expression on Wang Haining's face was also very strange. She wanted to laugh but didn't dare. Li Jie looked at Xiao Jiao and the others one by one. They are really bad enough to punish their husbands like this. Especially Shen Guiguai, who appears to be well behaved but has many bad ideas in his heart. Just wait, if he doesn't punish her until she cries, he will change her surname to Shen. I'm going to the bathroom. Don't leave. No cheating. Seeing that Li Jie was about to run away, Xiao Jiao and the others pounced on him and caught him. Husband, I can do anything you say. You can't refuse. Xiao Jiao pointed at him and said. Did I say that? Okay, are you still pretending to be stupid? Okay, isn't it just, I'll go to the head office. After arguing for a while, Li Jie had no choice but to compromise. Just wear women's clothing, there's no shame in making your girlfriends happy. Anyway, outsiders can't see it. Li Jie picked up the clothes on the bed and prepared to leave. Husband, why are you going? Xiao Jiao quickly grabbed his arm. She was afraid that Li Jie would take the opportunity to run away. I'm going to the cloakroom to change. You don't have to go to the cloakroom, just change here. We haven't seen anything. The president really just opens his mouth and drives. Li Jie didn't say anything, he just spanked her hard on the little buttocks and walked to the cloakroom. He didn't mind changing clothes in front of them, but not in women's clothing. This is a bit too shameful. Husband, wait a minute, Lu Kaiu stopped him. She picked up the stockings that had been left on the bed. Hubby, put on your stockings too. Don't you like black stockings the most? Li Jie glanced at Lu Kaiu with a smile and took the stockings. He also made a note in his mind for her. Of course, there is also Xiao Jiao, the mastermind, and Zhou Ziyu, the accomplice. It is said that his little lover is getting more and more bad behaved. Where is the little lover who was obedient and considerate to him before? Honey, have you changed yet? More than 10 minutes have passed since we met, but Li Jie hasn't come out yet. Xiao Jiao couldn't help but urge. Okay, with the voice, the door of the cloakroom was pushed open. Seeing Li Jie walking out of the cloakroom, Xiao Jiao and the others were stunned for a moment, and couldn't help but burst into laughter. Xiao Jiao laughed the hardest, leaning forward and back, unable to even straighten her waist. Shen Xinyi couldn't stop laughing. There are men who look better in women's clothing than girls, but a man like Li Jie, who has a strong body, thick hair, and full of masculine style, is very happy in women's clothing. Li Jie didn't feel too embarrassed. He was not very thick-skinned now. That's almost it. I'm going to change my clothes. Husband, wait a minute, Xiao Jiao called him. She ran back to bed and picked up her phone. I'll take a picture. Jiao Bao, stop making trouble. Don't go back to the KTV where you have fun. No, you can't take pictures to leave a clue. If the photos are circulated, then he will become an object of national entertainment just like Richard Liu. Seeing Li Jie's serious face, Xiao Jiao put down the phone angrily. It was such a shame not to be able to take a photo. Xiao Jiao won the third game, and the ghost card was left in Zhou Ziyu's hand. After successfully punishing Li Jie once, the four of them, Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiu, and Shen Xinyi, no longer wanted to cooperate and started fighting among themselves again. Xiao Jiao looked at Zhou Ziyu, wondering how to punish him. You said that I am a gold digger and a vixen who shamelessly steals other people's boyfriends for money, and then tell me 3 times, sister, that I was wrong. Zhou Ziyu listened and nodded with a smile, okay. I am a gold digger and a vixen. Listening to Zhou Ziyu's apology and confession, Xiao Jiao still felt indescribably comfortable in her heart, even though she knew she was just playing a game. There's no point in apologizing. I won't forgive you, you vixen. He is really President Aq. The result of the fourth game happened to be the other way around, Zhou Ziyu won and Xiao Jiao lost. Tell me, what do you want me to do? Xiao Jiao said hard, but felt a little uneasy in her heart. Zhou Ziyu glanced at Xiao Jiao with a smile, as if he could see her strength on the outside, but she said, don't worry, I won't embarrass you. She paused and said, "Just call me sister 3 times. Sister. Sister. Sister." Xiao Jiao gritted his teeth and shouted these 3 words, "Sister." "Well, good sister," Zhou Ziyu nodded with satisfaction. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 504. In the next few games, Xiao Jiao and the others went overboard and even got Li Zhe involved, becoming their tool. This made him enjoy and feel uncomfortable at the same time. "That's it," Xiao Jiao stood up from the ground, rubbed his red knees, and glared at Zhou Ziyu bitterly. She must come back with revenge. She was forced to kneel for 10 minutes, and her legs became numb. Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi were all wearing hanfu and their faces were red. Seeing them like this, Li Zhe shook his head in his heart. Once they girls get crazy, they are really more open-minded than men. It's just a pain for him. Not only do they have to be bullied by their gang, but they also have to be used as a tool for them to bully others. Thinking this, Li Zhe glanced at the keyboard thrown aside. He decided to smash the broken keyboard tomorrow. Game 11. Shen Xian looked at the last 3 cards left in Li Zhe's hand and tentatively held one of them. Li Zhe and Xiao Jiao would switch positions every 3 rounds. Now sitting on the left and right of Li Zhe were Shen Xinyi and Wang Zhining. "My dear, are you sure you want to choose this card?" Li Zhe looked at her with a half smile. Seeing his expression, Shen Xian quickly changed his card. "Are you sure you want this one? That's it? You really don't want to change?" "I won't change it." After repeatedly observing Li Zhe's expression for a while, Shen Xinyi finally made up his mind, selected a card and pulled it out suddenly. "Ah!" After seeing the cards clearly, Shen Xinyi yelled in annoyance. She was deceived by Li Zhe again and got the big ghost. Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, and Lu Kaiyu couldn't help but laugh. Among them, Shen Xinyi was the most deceptive. Li Zhe turned to look at Wang Zhining and tentatively held a card in her hand. Wang Zhining gave him a wink. Li Zhe changed the card when he saw it. This time Wang Zhining didn't wink at him anymore. Li Zhe immediately pulled out the card, then combined it with one of the remaining 2 cards to form a pair of 10, and played it out. This leaves him with one last card. "You guys cheated," Shen Xinyi said angrily after noticing their little actions. "She has the greatest chance of losing this round." "My dear, don't talk nonsense without evidence." Li Zhe smiled and reached out to pinch her cheek. Her cheeks are so fleshy and easy to pinch. With Wang Zhining helping him cheat, Li Zhe's chances of winning greatly increased in these 2 games. He had punished Zhou Ziyu severely just now, and Xiao Jiao was still beside her clapping excitedly. When the president goes crazy, he really doesn't care and is strict with himself. After a round of drawing, it was Zhou Ziyu's turn to draw Shen Xinyi's card. Shen Xian handed the remaining 2 cards to Zhou Ziyu with a look of anticipation on his face, hoping that she could take away the ghost cards. Zhou Ziyu first tentatively held one of the cards. Seeing that Shen Xinyi looked a little nervous, he immediately changed it to another card. After pulling it out, he found that it was not a ghost card. Shen Xian couldn't help but sigh in frustration. She lost this round. "My dear, you are finally in my hands." Li Zhe smiled and stretched out his hand to hug her. He only had 1 card left, and as soon as Shen Xian took it away, he would be gone. So there is no need to draw cards to determine winning or losing. "Husband, it was really not me who gave you the idea to wear women's clothes just now." Seeing the malicious look on Li Zhe's face, smile, Shen Xian avoided his eyes in a panic and explained in a subtle way. "Don't worry, I won't embarrass you," Li Zhe said, lowering his head and kissing her lips. He also extended his hand along the skirt and touched a pair of white, tender, and slightly voluptuous legs. At around 8 o'clock in the evening, Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian, Li Zhepeng and Han Fei were sitting in front of the large floor-standing TV in the living room, watching the Spring Festival Gala. While the two of them were watching the show, they would look up upstairs from time to time. Tonight is New Year's Eve, and they are looking forward to whether Xiao Qiao, Zhou Ziyu, and the others will give them red envelopes. Each of the 5 second sisters-in-law is given 10,000 yuan, which is 50,000 yuan. At this time, Li's mother walked in from outside. She just walked around the yard of the villa. She always felt that it would be a pity not to plant vegetables in such a big yard. What was the use of planting those flowers and plants? Ziyaji and the others haven't come down yet. Mother Li glanced at Li Zhepeng, Cheng Shuang, Cheng Qian, and the others. My brother and the others should still be in the room. Li Zhepeng turned around and said. I'll go upstairs and have a look. Li's mother was going to ask Li Zhe if he had also ordered dumplings at the hotel. If so, she wouldn't cover it. Mom, please rest, I'll call them. Han Fei stood up. She finally figured out that it was useless to rely on Li Zhepeng to ask for money, and she had to rely on her to find a way. Going upstairs to the 3rd floor, Han Fei gently knocked on the door of the 2nd bedroom. Xiao Zhe. After waiting for a long time and there was no movement in the room, she knocked hard again. At this time, Li Zhe's slightly annoying voice came from the room. Who is it? Xiao Zhe, it's me. Han Fei paused and then said, Mom is waiting for you to go down. There was no movement in the room again. Han Fei stood outside the door and waited for a long time, but saw no reply from Li Zhe, so she could only knock on the door again. I know, Li Zhe's voice was full of impatience. Han Fei's face was very ugly. This brother-in-law didn't recognize people when he was rich, and he had no respect for her sister-in-law at all. I don't know what he was doing after staying in the room with those women all night. More than an hour later, around 9 o'clock or almost 10 o'clock, Li Zhe came down from upstairs, followed by Xiao Qiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Wang Zhaining. Seeing that Li Zhe and the others finally came down, Li's mother, Li Zhepeng and the others turned their heads to look over. Xiao Zhe, what are you busy in the room? Mother Li looked at Xiao Qiao and the others behind Li Zhe and asked, where's Xin Yi? Why didn't she come down? I'm not busy with anything, I just played cards for a while, Li Zhe said casually. Xinyi, she is doing a live broadcast, please come down in a while. Shen Xinyi was not doing a live broadcast, but he was taught a terrible lesson. His butt was swollen and now he can't even get out of bed. Li Zhe said on the surface that he would not embarrass her, but in the end he was very cruel. By the way, Ziyaji, have you ordered dumplings? Mother Li asked again. Li Zhe was stunned for a moment. I haven't ordered it yet. Then let's make dumplings quickly. We can't go on 30 nights without eating dumplings. Mother Li invited Han Fei, Xiao Qiao, Zhou Ziyu, and Lu Kaiyu to go to the kitchen to make dumplings. Li Zhe and Wang Zhaining sat down on the sofa, watching the Spring Festival Gala and playing with their mobile phones. He turned off his phone when he, Xiao Qiao and the others were playing games, and now when he turned it on, a bunch of text messages and missed calls popped up. The sketch To Help or Not to Help by Shen Teng and Mary happened to be playing on TV. Shen Teng's ability to attend the Spring Festival Gala this year is entirely due to the operation of Cuckoo Entertainment. Otherwise, he would have to wait until next year, that is, to attend the Spring Festival Gala for the first time in 2012. After Stephen Chow, the most talented actors in China are Huang Bo, Su Zheng, and Shen Teng. However, Huang Bo and Su Zheng have obvious shortcomings. They are not focused on the field of comedy. Strictly speaking, they are considered composite actors. Only Shen Teng can truly deserve the title of the king of comedy in the mainland. Starting from this year, Cuckoo Entertainment will strongly support Shen Teng, and has arranged 3 movies for him in 1 year, When a Man Falls in Love, With My Wife, and Get the Father-in-Law. As for Charlotte and the richest man in Zhejiang City, they will have to wait 2 or 3 years. The domestic box office market has not really exploded yet. A hit like Charlotte will be released too early. It's just a waste. In addition, Cuckoo Entertainment also plans to create a Zhejiang City universe and make several more movies related to Zhejiang City. At 11 o'clock, Mother Li, Han Fei, Xiao Jiao and others had finished wrapping and cooking the dumplings, and everyone sat around to eat the dumplings. Shen Xinyi also came down from upstairs, but she was helped down by Li Jie. "Xinyi, what's wrong with you?" Mother Li asked concernedly. In fact, among the 6 of them, Xiao Jiao, her favorite is Shen Xinyi. She is the most popular among the elders and the most well-behaved. She sprained her foot while doing a live broadcast of her talent show. Li Jie's lie came out of his mouth. But Li's mother believed it. "Xinyi, why are you so careless?" Xiao Jiao and the others looked at Shen Xinyi with inexplicable smiles on their faces. Shen Xian's face was a little red, and she sat down at the table without saying anything. Tonight she was so embarrassed. Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian were eating dumplings while looking at Xiao Jiao and the others with expectation in their eyes. Not just the 2 of them, but also Li Zhepeng and Han Fei. Han Fei deliberately took out her daughter Li Xinyu, who was already asleep, just to receive the red envelope. If Xiao Jiao and the others gave 10,000 each, that would be 50,000. If Li Jie could give more, it would be even more. Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu and the others also noticed the gazes of Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian, and they all glanced at Li Jie subconsciously. They all prepared red envelopes, but Li Jie refused to give them to them. After finishing the dumplings, Mother Li took out a pile of red envelopes. The red envelope is very thick, at least 10,000 yuan. "Xiao Jiao, Xiao Zhou, Xiao Yu, Xin Yi, and Xiao Ning, I have prepared a red envelope for each of you during the holiday today. It can be regarded as a meeting gift. It's not much, so don't dislike it." After she finished speaking, she gave a red envelope to each of Xiao Jiao and the other 5. "Thank you, Auntie." Xiao Jiao and the others took the red envelope with smiles. They don't care about this red envelope, what's more important is Mother Li's recognition of them. Li Zhepeng and Han Fei both looked a little unhappy when they saw this scene. They didn't expect that Li's mother had saved so much money and gave it to Xiao Jiao and the others. With Li Jie, a billionaire, how could Xiao Jiao and the others be short of this little money? What's more, they are in need of help. Okay. Mother Li picked up the remaining 3 red envelopes, first gave one to Han Fei, and then gave the last 2 to Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian. "Xiao Fei, this is for you." "Xiao Shuang, Xiao Qian, my aunt gave this to you too." Li Jie used to give Li's mother 2,000 yuan a month, and Li's mother saved all the money if she didn't need it. After 3 years, the savings plus interest amounted to nearly 80,000 yuan. She had told Li Jie before that she would help him save the money for his wedding. But now that Li Jie is so rich, she can no longer use the money, so she took it all and wrapped it into red envelopes and gave them to Xiao Jiao and their 5 future sons and daughters-in-law as a meeting gift. I just don't know who can really become her daughter-in-law in the end. As for the red envelopes given to Han Fei, Cheng Shuang, and Cheng Qian, they were all paid out of the money Li Jiexin gave her. 10,000 a month plus an extra 30,000 during the new year. After 2 or 3 months, she had saved another 50 or 60,000. "Thank you, Auntie." Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian accepted the red envelope with surprise and joy. They really didn't expect that Li's mother would also give red envelopes. In fact, Li's mother would give them such a big red envelope mainly to repay the favor. The 4th aunt and the others had sent some grain and oil to Li Jie and his family before, but no matter how valuable those grains and oil were, they were not worth 20,000 yuan, not to mention that the favor had almost been repaid before. "Thank you, Mom." Han Fei smiled reluctantly when she took the red envelope from Mother Li's hand. After Li's mother finished handing out the red envelopes, Li Jie also took out 3 red envelopes, gave one to Han Fei, and then gave one to Cheng Shuang and Cheng Qian. They are all 10,000 yuan red envelopes. Sister-in-law, this red envelope is given to Xinyu by Xiao Jiao and I. Xiao Shuang, Xiao Jian, this is for you too. Li Jie stopped Xiao Jiao and the others from giving red envelopes, not because he was reluctant to part with the tens of thousands of dollars. It's about being too generous. When the news gets back, next year those cheap relatives will definitely come over with their children to take advantage. You can get more than 100,000 yuan just once, who wouldn't be tempted? Yang Fengxian was once asked in an interview what she would do if a friend borrowed money or asked for financial help. She decisively said that she would not borrow. If she lends money to a friend, the borrower may think that since she is a big star now, she will not ask for the money back, right? In order to avoid such embarrassing things happening, she chose not to borrow them. This is the attitude of normal wealthy people. The richer people are, the more they care about money, instead of not caring about some small money and spreading money outside, otherwise they will not have money. Only ordinary people can be poor and generous, and easily squander their hard-earned money out of face. Xiao Jie, thank you. Thank you, second brother. Han Fei, Cheng Shuang, and Cheng Qian received the red envelopes, smiling on the outside, but disappointed in their hearts. They thought that both Li Jie and Xiao Jiao would give red envelopes, but they never expected that there would only be one. Han Fei and Li Zhepeng looked at each other and felt that they were at a huge loss. This time when they came to the Shanghai Stock Exchange, they managed to get more than 20,000 yuan in red envelopes, but they even got 60,000 to 70,000 yuan in red envelopes. If I had known this, I wouldn't have encouraged Mother Li to come to Shanghai. In the hearts of Li Zhepeng and Han Fei, all the money in Li's mother's hands should belong to them. Seeing Mrs. Li giving away at least 80,000 to 90,000 yuan in red envelopes, I felt really distressed. Soon, the time was approaching 12 o'clock, the New Year's bell was about to ring, and on the TV, the host of the Spring Festival Gala also began to count down. However, it was still very quiet outside the villa, and no firecrackers could be heard. The Sandalwood Villa area belongs to the inner ring of Shanghai City, and it is prohibited to set off fireworks. Li Jie winked at Xiao Jiao and the others and stood up from the sofa. Xiao Jie, what are you going to do? Mother Li asked. Let's go to the terrace on the roof to enjoy the wind for a while. Li Zhepeng glanced at the backs of Li Jie and Xiao Jiao as they left, and said with a meaningful smile, Mom, Xiao Jie is celebrating the New Year alone with his girlfriends. After hearing this, Mother Li glanced at him and then at Han Fei. Both of her sons have the same virtue, and they forget about their mother when they have a daughter-in-law. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 505. Standing on the terrace on the third floor, looking across, the Zhijiao Hotel is brightly lit at night, and the lush gardens are deep and quiet, full of a sense of mystery. Li Jie raised his hand and glanced at the time. It was less than 2 minutes before the New Year's bell rang at 12 o'clock. He opened his arms and tried his best to hug Xiao Jiao and the other 5, quietly waiting for the arrival of the New Year. It's so quiet, Wang Zhining said softly. Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and others all looked at her. It was already very crowded with the 4 of them, but now that there was one more person, it was even more crowded. Suddenly there was a faint cheer from the Zhijiao Hotel. New Year arrived. Happy New Year, hubby, Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi said almost in unison. Wang Zhining slowed down a beat and then said, Brother Jie, Happy New Year. After saying that, she glanced at Xiao Jiao and the others, and the 4 of them ostracized her again. Jiao Bao, Xiao Yu, Guai Guai, Xiaoning, Happy New Year to you too, Li Jie smiled and hugged them harder. At this moment, he felt that he should be content to have the 5 of them. It was time to calm down and not continue to indulge. This guy has thought this way more than once, but it was always just a thought. After reflection, he just indulged in it. Suddenly, Li Jie felt someone pulling his clothes hard. He turned around and saw that it was Shen Xinyi. It turned out that she was squeezed out by Xiao Jiao and the others. After the new year, Li Jie became busy again and flew to the capital for a business trip on the 6th day of the new year. Xiaomi mobile phone was about to be put into production, and Rebus invited him to visit it and meet Xu Sudan. Well, it's just by the way. Xiao Jiao and the others also became busy. Xiao Jiao is preparing for the postgraduate re-examination. She actually passed the first test, even if she just barely crossed the line. Before the exam, she signed up for an extremely expensive postgraduate entrance examination sprint class, and the several sets of mock tests she took actually scored 70% of the questions, so the students in her class basically passed the mark. Xiao Jiao said mysteriously that this cram school had connections and he could get the test questions. But in Li Jie's opinion, Xiao Jiao's enrollment in this cram school is definitely related, but it is a bit exaggerated to say that he can get the questions. If they could really get the questions, they wouldn't publicize it like this. The more important thing is to find out the question-setting habits of the question-setting team and be able to narrow down the range of test points and choose the questions. This time it just happened to be accurate. However, no matter what, it is a good thing that she can cross the line with her skills, and it will be easier to operate next. Zhou held several book signing events at the beginning of the year. After publishing several popular works such as A Smile is Charming, Want to See You, The Best of Us, she has become the most popular young literary female writer. Every time I attend a book signing, there are always huge crowds of people, no less than those of popular celebrities. Zhou is so popular because her works are good, but more importantly because she is so good looking. As the saying goes, if you have poetry and calligraphy in your belly, you are very beautiful, and if you have some talent, your achievements will be even higher. It is worth mentioning that during this year's live broadcast of the Kudong Group's annual meeting, the photographer gave Zhou more than a dozen shots. These 10 seconds became the highlight of the party. Everyone was asking who this ridiculously beautiful beauty was, and then Zhou's identity was exposed. After more than 2 years, she, a beautiful writer, is once again popular all over the internet. But this time the popularity is even higher, and she was even crowned the most beautiful writer. Now not only the publishing house is supporting her, but also many program groups are looking for her to appear on their programs. Zhou declined most of these program invitations and only appeared on 1 or 2 interview programs. As soon as she started work after the new year, Lu Kaiyu officially became a full-time employee and became the president's director. Then she began to reorganize the president's office and frequently visited various subsidiaries to inspect, and found many problems. Many employees in the company secretly complained that her newly appointed assistant to the president was not easy to take care of. Shen Xinyi is relatively free. He goes to her boutique every day and does live broadcasts in the evening. Among Xiao Jiao and the others, she is the richest one. Not only did she not spend money like Xiao Jiao, Zhou, and others, she also used the money given by Li Jie and the money earned from opening a store and doing live broadcasts. Made an investment. Buy a house, buy stocks. Counting the house that Li Jie gave her, Shen Xian now owns 3 properties, more than 5 million in stocks, and more than 1,000 BTC. She is really good at making money. It is estimated that she will become a small billionaire in a few years. Shen Xinyi's BTC was given to her by Li Jie. He gave Xiao Jiao and several others more than 1,000 BTC each. The concept of blockchain was proposed in 2008, and BTC was born in January 2009. When BTC was first born, it was worthless at all. The price was less than 1 cent, and $1 could be exchanged for 1,300 coins. But by February of this year, 2011, BTC had appreciated to $1, equivalent to a 1,300-fold increase. Last year, Li Jie had people mine more than 200,000 BTC and then stopped. BTC is something that is speculated with capital and used to cut leaks, so there is no need to hoard too much. If you really hoard millions of coins, the capital behind it will probably give up the money and stop playing. Then get a currency like ATC. Anyway, the blockchain thing is just a blank wolf. The total amount of BTC is 21 million, and Li Jie's more than 200,000 only account for 1% of the total, so the impact is not huge. When BTC starts to skyrocket in 2017, he will slowly sell these BTC in batches and sell most of the BTC in 2 or 3 years. BTC has risen to a maximum of more than $40,000 per piece, but this is a price speculated on, and it is impossible to sell it at this price for large-scale shipments. But even if the average price is $10,000 per coin, 200,000 BTCs are still worth $2 billion. This is free money, with almost no cost. Among Xiao Qiao and the others, Wang's Haining is the most idle. After 5 or 6 months of pregnancy, she became more and more pregnant, and all she had to do every day was to care for her baby. After more than 4 months of pregnancy, it was determined through examination that the child was likely to be a girl. Years later, Wang's Haining went to the hospital for a prenatal checkup as usual, which confirmed the result and that the child was healthy. After 5 or 6 months of pregnancy, the gender and health of the child can be determined more accurately through examination. In fact, for ordinary people, doctors are generally unwilling to disclose the gender of their children. Mainly because they are afraid that some families favor boys over girls, and if they hear that the child is a girl, they will abort the child. If the child is aborted and it turns out to be a boy, the hospital will be in trouble. Li Jie's cheap brother Li Zhepeng used to accompany Hanfei for prenatal check UPS, and he always asked the doctor whether the child was a boy or a girl. The doctor was annoyed by him, so he just said it was a boy. This made him extremely happy, but when the child was born he found out it was a girl. In addition to raising her baby every day, Wang's Haining occasionally goes shopping with Ruan Jing to buy clothes, toys, books, and various daily necessities for her daughter. Before the child was born, the things she bought filled up the bedroom, in the apartment, and now she can only put them in the living room. What does reincarnation mean? That's it. It was destined before he was born that he would inherit at least tens of billions of wealth in the future. If she didn't have too many younger brothers and sisters, she would inherit more. Recently, Wang's Haining started doing prenatal care again. She talks to her unborn daughter every day, listens to music and tells her stories, and teaches her English. She put her normal education major to use. However, Xiao Qiao and the others felt extremely upset, especially Zhou Ziyu, who lived under the same roof as Wang's Haining. She became upset when she saw the children's toys in the living room and heard Wang's Haining playing prenatal education music. But who made her feel bad about pregnancy and never got pregnant? Instead, Wang's Haining, Xiaoliu, took the lead. Zhou Ziyu believed that if she was pregnant, Li Jie would definitely like their child more. She will also train her children to become the heirs of Li Jie's career. If Xiao Qiao knew that Zhou Ziyu had planned to let her unpregnant child inherit Li Jie's career, she would probably curse her. She, a vixen, was just daydreaming. It was so beautiful. Only her and Li Jie's children are eligible to inherit Li Jie's career. Originally, after the 6th day of the Lunar New Year, Mother Li was ready to leave. But Li Zhepeng and Hanfei didn't want to leave just like that, so they persuaded Mother Li to stay for a few more days. For this trip, they didn't even get the money, but they even got 60,000 to 70,000 yuan. How could they be so willing? However, after the 10th day of the Lunar New Year, Mother Li refused to stay any longer and wanted to leave at all costs. Li Jie and Xiao Qiao didn't come back very often. She stayed alone in this big villa, which was so deserted. Nothing compares to being comfortable in a village and being envied and complimented by others wherever you go. The eldest son and daughter-in-law were still nagging in her ears every day, asking her to help them take care of Li Zhe's request for money, which was annoying to death. The more incompetent a person is, the more he likes to bully the weak. The weaker we are, the more we like to make things difficult for each other and hurt each other. Because they are afraid of the strong and dare not resist, they can only bully weaker people in order to find the so-called dignity and self-confidence. If you really have perseverance, courage, and dare to fight, you won't always be at the bottom of society. Li Zhepeng and Han Fei couldn't get money from Li Zhe, and they didn't dare to act arrogant, so they had no choice but to pester Li's mother, who was easy to talk to. On February 13th, the 11th day of the first lunar month, the day that Li's mother and the others were leaving, Xiao Qiao and the other 5 bought a lot of things for Li's mother and asked her to take them with her. Then they and Li Zhe sent Li's mother and the others to the airport. When she came to the security checkpoint, Mother Li stopped and turned around and said, "Okay, Xiaojie, just send them here. Go back quickly, especially Xiaoning is still pregnant." As she said that, she glanced at Wang Zhaining. Li Zhe listened and nodded, "Mom, you should be careful along the way. Auntie, goodbye. Auntie, please take care of yourself." Xiao Qiao and the others said one after another. "Xiao Zhe." Li Zhepeng hesitated for a moment and said somewhat flatteringly, "You should think more about opening a factory and inspecting it. I'll wait for your news." Although he felt that Li Zhe was probably perfunctory, he still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. Weak people always place their hopes on others. Li Zhe didn't speak, but nodded slightly. Before coming to the airport, he gave his mother 2 more checks worth 100,000 yuan, and told her that the money could be used to support his cheap brother in starting a small business, but she should not give it away easily. His cheap brother will have a hard time becoming down to earth and calm unless he suffers a few losses. When Mother Li and the others entered the security checkpoint, Li Zhe turned around, smiled and said to Xiao Qiao and the others, "Okay, let's go back." After saying that, he half hugged and half supported Wang Zhaining and walked out of the airport. Xiao Qiao and the others couldn't help but feel jealous after seeing it. Pregnant people are privileged. "Husband, how are you going to spend your time tomorrow?" Xiao Qiao asked with a smile. "Is tomorrow a holiday?" "Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, you won't forget it, right?" As a real scumbag, no, a good man, how could Li Zhe forget such an important day as Valentine's Day? He was just worried about how to spend this festival. "How should I spend time with so many girlfriends and lovers? Even if I split him in half, he would still be too busy." Why do Chinese people celebrate Valentine's Day in the West? On the evening of the 15th day of the first lunar month, Li Zhe held another New Year's reception at Sandalwood Villa. This annual New Year's reception is mainly for the executives of the group's subsidiaries to get together and connect with each other, otherwise Li Zhe would not hold the reception at home. The cocktail party was very lively. Senior executives of Kudong Group and some companies with business dealings were also invited. In addition, many popular celebrities and anchors from Kudong Group also came. Li Zhe was holding a wine glass and chatting with Zhao Qia, Yu Zhongfeng, Zhang Jingxian and other senior executives. He was exhausted on Valentine's Day. Don't get me wrong, it's not that I can't handle it physically, it's that I'm running in a hurry. It took 2 or 3 days to recover. At this time, Su Zheng came over with a glass of wine and greeted Li Zhe with a smile. "Mr. Li." Su Zheng tinkered with a film called Modern Times last year, but it failed. He just wanted to make another movie called On the Road To, but the copyright of this movie is in the hands of Cuckoo Entertainment. "Don't you just want to come to this cocktail party?" Si Kong, a long-haired and artistic young man, said to a beautiful woman with a good figure and a cool temperament. This girl is his new girlfriend, a little model who is not popular. Although the other person is just a young model and his family background is not very good, Shi Kong likes him very much and gives him a different sense of freshness. The girl looked around at the reception and her eyes fell on Li Jie, who was surrounded by everyone. Is that Mr. Li from Kudong Group? Yes, that's Li Jie. Shi Kong paused and said, I'll take you to get to know him later. Boss Wang asked him to come to this cocktail party just to let him get to know and learn from Li Jie. But Shi Kong was disgusted with this. Suddenly, he noticed a tall, beautiful girl with mixed race features, and his eyes narrowed. This girl is so beautiful. Naza was a little distracted while holding a glass of wine. Several people came over to strike up a conversation, but she dismissed them all perfunctorily. Despite her young age, she is still an old member of the company, and she is one of the first batch of artists to sign contracts. But because she had been training at the South Korean branch, she had no connections in the domestic company, and her agent had no say. As a result, she could not get any good resources at all, and was even inferior to some newcomers. Thinking like this, her eyes fell on Zhao Xiaodao, who was joking with Chen Xiao not far away. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 506. After Zhao Xiaodao and Chen Xiao starred in Love for 1,000 Years Together, the two became recognized as an on-screen couple. Many viewers hope that the two of them can get together in real life. The relationship between the two is also very heated, and there are faint signs of the fake show being real, and there are scandals in the company. Didn't it mean that the company doesn't allow dating? A thought flashed through Naza's mind. When she returned to China the year before last, she witnessed Wang's Haining being hidden by the company because of her secret love affair, and even half of the scenes were replaced. The film The Ugly Girl's Big Makeover was picked up from the other party. This incident really scared Naza, who has been afraid to fall in love for such a long time. However, a wealthy second-generation man with good conditions was chasing her recently, which made her a little hesitant. "Hello, beauty," someone suddenly said next to her. Naza turned around and saw a young man with long, unruly hair. Shi Kong had just sent away his little model girlfriend, leaving her to wander around alone, so he came over to strike up a conversation. Being emotionally hurt and not believing in love are just personality traits. Just like the big black bull who likes to give free heart-shaped stones to his girlfriends, but ends up falling out of favor, his character is still an honest person. If he was really an honest person, he wouldn't be a scumbag. "Hello," Naza nodded to Shi Kong coldly. She is a bit of a face controller, and in her opinion, this young man's appearance is not up to par at all. Little did he know that this humble young man was the only son of the future richest man. However, with Li Jie here, it is not certain whether Boss Wang can become the richest man in the future. "Are you also an artist from Kudong Group?" Sikkim continued to chat. "Sorry, I have something to do." Nazar's attention was not focused on him at all. As if she had discovered something, she said sorry and left in a hurry. Seeing Naza leaving him here, Zi Kong suddenly felt very humiliated. Li Jie chatted with Su Zheng for a few words and then dismissed the other party. Cuckoo Entertainment was originally planning to start filming The Journey to Thailand this year, but Su Zheng came over and took the initiative to deliver it. However, he thought too much about participating in investment. How could Su Zheng be qualified to invest in a hit movie like Thailand? At most, he could be allowed to convert part of his remuneration into investment. It is said that Su Zhengting is not particular. When he had a disagreement with the producers of Embarrassing 2 and quit the crew, he took the outline of Embarrassing 2 and director Yang Qing to make a Embarrassing City. As a result, the registered script had to be cancelled because it was too similar to the content of Journey to the Road 2. Later, was produced and continued under the banner of the sequel to. After hearing that Su Zheng had withdrawn from Journey to the Road 2, Wang Baoqiang, who had already promised to the film crew, immediately withdrew as well. Because Su Jengla had insufficient funds for the filming, he only received a friendly price of 2 million in salary. When was released and became a hit, with a box office of more than 1.2 billion, Su Zheng gained both fame and fortune, and Huang Bo's 3 million salary was converted into investment and received nearly 50 million in dividends. Only Wang Baoqiang gets a salary of 2 million. Who can mentally balance such a huge gap? From then on, there was a gap in the hearts of both parties. Later, when Su Zheng was about to film Embarrassed in Hong Kong again, he approached Wang Baoqiang and wanted to cooperate again, and offered him a salary of 5 million. But Wang Baoqiang wanted to get dividends, so the role selection was changed to pretending to be stupid. Su Zheng always wants to be a good actor, but he is a businessman at heart. If he really had confidence in Thailand, he should mortgage his house and invest his own money like Wu Jing, instead of asking people to invest, using favors and feeling aggrieved when he couldn't get enough investment. The role of Zhu Beiji that made him famous was obtained by investing all his wealth in the crew. After sending Su Zheng away, Li Jie said something to Zhao Jia and Yu Zhongfeng, and then took the wine glass to Shu Sudan, who was in a daze not far away. "What are you thinking about?" After Shu Sudan turned around and found that it was Li Jie, a bright smile appeared on her face. "I didn't think anything of it. Let me show you around." At this cocktail party, Li Jie was the center of attention. The scene where he and Shu Sudan were talking and laughing was seen by many people. Zhang Yu was holding a glass of wine and chatting with Yang Hao, Chen He, Guo Jingfei, and Wang Baoqiang. Last year, Zhang Xiangzi appeared in the popular online love drama Beauty and the Best, and then starred in Never Expected. Although she only played a small role in Unexpectedly, she also gained some popularity. She has nearly 1 million fans on Kudong Video and 200,000 to 300,000 fans on Weibo. However, compared to popular stars such as Chen He, Guo Jingfei, and Wang Baoqiang, she is still just a somewhat famous internet celebrity and small artist. If Yang Hao hadn't helped introduce them, she wouldn't even be qualified to know Chen He and the others. Yang Hao would help Zhang Yu not because he had any thoughts about her, but because she was Xiao Jiao's roommate. Noticing that Li Jie had fallen in love with a new love, Zhang Yu couldn't help but sympathize with Xiao Jiao. It's not easy to be the girlfriend of a top rich man. I don't know how many times I have worn this colored hat. She always only wears colored hats for others, and no man has ever worn a hat for her. Yang Hao looked at Li Jie, who was joking with Shu Sudan, and felt extremely envious. Only when a man reaches Li Jie's level can his life be considered in vain. There are so many beautiful female internet celebrities and stars under the Kudong group, so you can choose whichever one you want. If he had Li Jie's conditions, he would definitely change his girlfriend every day. Even if a popular star like Yang Hao is average looking and very fat, it is not difficult to find a prettier girlfriend. But it is difficult to find a girl like Shu Sudan, who is pure, beautiful, a school beauty, and has never been in a relationship. The women surrounding him are all young models and artists who want to ride on his popularity. Wang Baoqiang also glanced at Li Jie. He had also heard about Mr. Li's romantic affairs. In Wang Baoqiang's view, men should have a sense of responsibility and be loyal to their families. Although there are many messy things in the industry, he does not agree with or envy them. Now that his wife is beautiful and he has a son, he is very satisfied. Wang Baoqiang is undoubtedly a traditional good man, loyal to his family, working hard to make money, and staying busy for months without going home, just to give his wife and children a better life. But just because you are loyal to your family does not mean that others will be loyal to your family. In fact, as early as 2008, a classmate of the girl broke the news on the internet, saying that the girl had an open style in school, frequently changed boyfriends, and specifically chose people from the capital, who had good family conditions, just to pursue a career in the entertainment industry in the capital. If Wang Baoqiang hadn't been too concerned and did a little research, he wouldn't have accepted the offer. Li Jie led Shu Sudan toward the villa, nodding to the people who passed by to say hello. When people passing by look at Li Jie, they will also look at Shu Sudan. It is estimated that after this cocktail party, many people in the circle will know her background, and no one will dare to take any chances with her. Entering the villa, Li Jie led Shu Sudan around while making introductions. From the first floor to the third floor. Li Jie said to Shu Sudan, "Let's go, I will take you to the room to see again." "Yeah," Shu Sudan hummed softly and followed him to the master bedroom. Li Jie's master bedroom is larger than Xiao Qiao's second bedroom, covering 50 or 60 square meters. It has a separate bathroom, a dressing room, and a semi-open small reception area. Standing in front of the large open balcony, you can have an unobstructed view of the reception scene in the large garden downstairs. The garden of this villa is huge, covering an area of 1,500 square meters, or 2.25 acres. There is a large garden with more than 2 acres of land in the inner ring of Shanghai City. This is not an ordinary arrogance. Ordinary people can make a fortune growing vegetables if they have more than 2 acres of land in Shanghai. Before leaving, Mother Li said in her heart that it was a pity not to grow vegetables in such a big place. 10 years later, the price of this villa rose to 800 million to 900 million, but it was just a price but no market. The sky-high price of 8 to 9 billion will definitely not be bought by anyone. Shu Sudan looked around in the room, then came to the balcony and looked down, her eyes full of admiration. No girl wouldn't like such a nice villa. Li Jie smiled, walked slowly behind Shu Sudan, and hugged her gently from behind. "Brother Jie," Shu Sudan's body stiffened. Having a man and a woman alone in the same room made her a little nervous. Li Jie didn't say anything. He lowered his head and kissed Shu Sudan's fair neck a few times, and then kissed her lips. Once a person indulges, his desires become difficult to control. Just like a cat that steals fish, it will only become more and more greedy. With so many beautiful girls struggling to survive in society, Li Jie couldn't help but want to take care of a few more. The two were intimate for a while, and Shu Sudan suddenly said with some resistance, "Brother Jie, don't be like this, the cocktail party outside isn't over yet." Li Jie kissed Shu Sudan a few more times and then let her go. Looking at her rosy face, he chuckled and said, "Let's go out." For a relatively innocent girl like Shu Sudan, he didn't intend to act too hastily. It was quite interesting to play with the ambiguity. Arriving at the door, Li Jie opened the door and came outside with Shu Sudan, and then was stunned for a moment. A tall girl with fair skin and a very beautiful and charming back was running downstairs a little sneakily. "Stop!" Hearing Li Jie's shout, the girl slowly turned around, her eyes panicked, and she said with a guilty conscience, "Mr. Li, I came here to find the bathroom." Li Jie was a little surprised when he saw the girl's appearance, Nazar. During the cocktail party last year, she and Li Xian ran upstairs and bumped into him and Yang Fengxian as they came out of the room. Why didn't she learn her lesson and run around again this year? "Are you still looking for the bathroom?" "I don't know a better excuse." Nazar secretly cried out that she was unlucky. She noticed that Li Jie and Shu Sudan entered the villa together, and followed them curiously. "I followed him from the first floor to the third floor, and then saw the two of them entering the bedroom together." She stood outside the door and listened for a while, but when she wanted to leave, it was already too late and Li Jie caught her. If she had known this, she would not have eavesdropped out of curiosity. "Mr. Li, shall I go down first?" Nazar said tentatively. Li Jie gave her a cold look, turned to Shu Sudan and said, Shu, you go down first." Shu Sudan nodded, glanced at Nazar again, and went downstairs. After Shu Sudan's figure disappeared downstairs, Li Jie looked up and down at Nazar with a straight face. She had her hair tied in a bun, wearing a black short dress and a windbreaker, revealing a pair of slender, white legs. It was such a cold day that she still had her legs exposed, so she didn't mind being cold. He suddenly remembered the line in the sewing machine band. These legs are long, white and thin. Do you want to touch them? You come in with me. This Nazar must be taught a lesson. Zhang Jiao was chatting with Zhang Li, Zhang Yuxi, and Lu Mengmeng, while looking around for Li Jie. She had just gone to toast Zhang Jingxian with a glass of wine and chatted for a few words, and now she also wanted to show off her face in front of Li Jie. If you leave an impression in front of the senior management, you might get the chance to succeed at some point. Didn't that Zhao Xiaodao just contradict Li Jie, but instead get a blessing in disguise, be remembered by Li Jie and get a lot of resources? The rumor that Zhao Xiaodao was unexpectedly rewarded for contradicting Li Jie was unknown, and it was widely circulated in the company. Jiao Jiao, what are you looking at? Zhang Yuxi glanced at Zhang Jiao and asked. Nothing. Zhang Jiao smiled and said. I'm going to the bathroom. Entering the villa, Zhang Jiao looked around the living room, but still couldn't find Li Jie. She glanced upstairs subconsciously, and then was stunned for a moment. I saw Nazar walking down the stairs. Nazar, what's wrong with you? The makeup on her face was a little smudged, and her eyes were a little red, as if she had just cried. I felt a little upset in my stomach, so I went to the bathroom to throw up, Nazar said with a somewhat uncomfortable look on his face. Are you okay? Zhang Jiao asked with concern after hearing this. It's okay. I feel better after vomiting. Nazar paused and said, then I'll go out first. She had been taught a hard lesson by Li Jie just now. Fortunately, the lesson was not in vain, and she got a good resource as a blessing in disguise. Okay, you go out first, I'll go to the bathroom too. After Nazar walked away, Zhang Jiao subconsciously glanced upstairs again. No one was using the bathroom downstairs, so why did she run upstairs? With a ding sound, the elevator door not far away suddenly opened and Li Jie walked out. Zhang Jiao. Mr. Li. Zhang Jiao was stunned for a moment, and then greeted Li Jie warmly. What are you doing here? I'm going to the bathroom. Then go quickly. After Zhang Jiao went to the bathroom, Li Jie also walked outside the villa. It's not easy for him to be the boss. You also have to worry about the feelings of your employees. This Nazar's emotional intelligence is really worrisome. If he doesn't educate her properly, she will definitely be deceived by the scumbag again, leaving a dark history. Then he was turned into ashes. Back at the cocktail party, Li Jie saw at a glance that long-haired, very artistic man, chatting with Zhang Yuxi. These two people are really destined. After the 15th day, the Spring Festival is completely over. After the Spring Festival, the war between Kakao and WeChat reignited, and the two sides once again started a battle for users. Before the Spring Festival, the number of users of Kakao was more than 60 million, and the number of users of WeChat was more than 20 million. Kakao occupies the vast majority of the market share and is far ahead, but WeChat also occupies a considerable market share, so there is no chance of a comeback. Thanks to the leader Beko for the deep reward, I became the third leader of this book. Updates are weak, so I can only wait for more updates for the time being. This book has reached its middle and late stages. When a book reaches its middle to late stages, it will definitely lose the freshness of the beginning and make people feel flat. This is inevitable for many books. However, I will try my best to write it as well as possible. Next will be the highlight of President Jiao. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 507. Starting this year, the smartphone market has begun to grow explosively. Domestic mobile phone manufacturers such as Huawei, ZTE, Lenovo, Colpad, LEDV, Meizu, Oppo, Vivo, and Xiaomi have entered the smartphone market one after another. This year alone, smartphone shipments reached more than 70 million units. The growth rate will be faster in the next 3 to 4 years. It will not be until smartphone shipments reach its peak in 2015 or 2016 and the market is saturated that the growth rate will slow down. Whoever between Kakao and WeChat can seize enough users in the recent years when the smartphone market explodes will be the ultimate winner and dominate the mobile instant messaging market. On February 18, Kuliao took the lead in starting a price war, raising the new recruit reward from 5 yuan to 6 yuan. WeChat followed closely, and then the two companies started a publicity war again, on TV, online, and offline. Promotional ads from both sides can be seen everywhere. Both Kakao and WeChat maintain an offline promotion team of thousands of people. For a promotion team of thousands of people, the personnel expenses and daily activities expenses alone are nearly 10 million per month. If promotion expenses are included, it will be even more. On the one hand, there is a big promotion war with WeChat, but on the other hand, Kakao has begun to quietly drain the profits from the bottom of the cauldron. Li Jie has been paying attention to the progress of Xiaomi mobile phones. Xiaomi has played an important role in promoting the explosion of the domestic mobile phone market. It was the release of Xiaomi mobile phones that took the lead in lowering the price of low-end smartphones, ushering in the era of 1,000 yuan phones, allowing more ordinary people to afford smartphones. With Li Jie's intervention in this life, Xiaomi Mi 1 was launched 3 or 4 months earlier and is expected to be launched in June or July. The price of the mobile phone will be less than 2,000 yuan. Compared with the smartphone market, which generally costs more than 3,000 yuan at this time, this price is definitely a plunge. More importantly, the quality of the mobile phone is guaranteed. The price is less than 2,000 yuan, and the configuration is 3,000-4,000 yuan. It directly sweeps the domestic copycat smartphones into the garbage, allowing the domestic smartphones to enter the era of brand phones. Li Jie and Rebus have negotiated that Xiaomi 1 will be pre-installed with Kakao, and Kudong Group will subsidize each phone with 10 yuan. In other words, customers can get a mobile phone priced at 1,999 yuan for only 1,989 yuan. Not only Xiaomi, Kudong Group will also talk to other major mobile phone manufacturers such as Huawei, ZTE, Colpad, and Lenovo. Giving pre-installed subsidies to mobile phone manufacturers is undoubtedly a bad start. When Penguin follows suit, vicious competition will form. Both parties will continue to burn money on a large scale until one party is brought down. But the shopping mall is like a battlefield. You gain strength by striking first, but suffer disaster by striking later. In the previous life, WeChat had no competitors. There was only one Miliao and it was quickly killed. It was simply a win, so there was no need to use any tricks. But now there is competition between Kakao and WeChat, and vicious competition is inevitable. Whoever strikes early and who strikes hard enough will be the final winner. Just like a certain taxi-hailing software giant, it relied on malicious competition and unscrupulous means to destroy all competitors, and then monopolized the market. As long as Kakao's real name users can take the lead in exceeding 100 million and gain an absolute advantage, capital can enter the market and continue to burn money through continuous financing until it completely monopolizes the market. By early March, Li Jie began to frequently inspect film and television and game peripheral production factories. Thanks to the surge in global smartphone shipments, the revenue of small games such as Angry Birds, Fruit Slicing, and Plants vs. Zombies owned by Qwen Technology has also surged in Europe and the United States, especially peripheral products sell extremely well. Young people in Europe and the United States have the habit of buying peripheral products. The small game Angry Birds alone can bring hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue to Kudong Group in a year. As the popularity of the game increases, the revenue will increase significantly in the next 2 years. However, this kind of small game becomes popular very quickly, and the profit-making period is only 2 to 3 years. Among them, 47% of the revenue of Angry Birds comes from derivative toys, books, and other authorized products. It can be said that peripheral revenue accounts for half. Last year, Cuckoo Entertainment launched the Angry Birds movie project, just to make more money during the huge profit period. The past 5 or 6 years have been the fastest growing period in the country. When there are more and more frictions with the United States, it will be difficult to earn foreign exchange. Kudong Group's peripheral product factories are mainly located in Zhejiang province. Currently, there are 5 or 6 factories for clothing, toys, accessories, etc., with scales ranging from a few hundred to thousands of employees. The total number of employees is between 5,000 and 6,000, and this year and next year it will expand to tens of thousands. Li Jie did not inform the factory about the inspection, and only Lu Kaiu knew about the company. He drove over directly with his secretary and bodyguard, just to see the real situation at the factory. Personal secretaries Zhang Wenjun and Yu Xiangzi, administrative secretary Bai Wei, and 5 bodyguards Shen Baishan, Zhou Chao, and Xu Mei, a total of 9 people in the group. Li Jie, Zhang Wenjun, Yu Xiangzi, and Bai Wei were riding in the newly arrived bulletproof Maybach, with bodyguard Xu Mei driving the car. 4 bodyguards, Shen Baishan and Zhou Chao, drove 2 BMW subs to see each other off. The bulletproof Maybach was a 4-seater, so it was a bit crowded for 5 people to sit in it. However, Li Jie, the boss, was quite generous and didn't mind squeezing with Zhang Wenjun and Yu Xiangzi. Li Jie and his party first went to a toy factory in Yuwu. It was the largest among several factories, with 1,500 to 600 redundant workers. It takes 3 or 4 hours to drive from Shanghai to Yuwu. Li Jie and the others set out in the morning, but it was almost noon when they arrived in Yuwu. "Mr. Li, why are you here all of a sudden?" the person in charge of the toy factory, female manager Zhang Hongshan, who was in her mid-30s, came out with her supervisors and was a little caught off guard by Li Jie's arrival. "Manager Zhang, please take me to the workshop first," Li Jie and Zhang Hongshan said directly after greetings. The toy factory has a large workshop with semi-automated assembly line production. The workers all wear uniform work clothes and wear hoods to process toys. Most of the employees are young girls, accounting for 70 to 80%. Occasionally, you can see a few good-looking ones. It was also during this period that there were still relatively many female workers in factories. 10 years later, even in factories such as clothing factories and toy factories where there are more female workers, there will be very few young girls. Many positions will be filled by male workers, and most female workers will not be employed. They are all married women in their 30s and 40s. When they saw manager Zhang Hongshan leading people to visit, they just looked at it curiously and then continued the decoration work. Their work attitude and enthusiasm were very good. The production level of this toy factory and the quality of its employees are definitely top-notch in the country at this time. However, the quality of employees is so good mainly because the factory has good welfare benefits. Now in factories in Zhejiang province, wages are generally only about 2,000 yuan a month, which is earned by working 12 hours a day, only having 1 day off a week, and working overtime. Not counting overtime, the base salary is only 800 minus 1,000 yuan. At this time, the average salary in the province was only 2,900 yuan. In the surrounding factories of Kudong Group, you only need to work 10 hours a day and take a day and a half off on weekends. You can get about 2,800 yuan a month, and you will be paid Social Security after becoming a full-time employee after 3 months of employment. The monthly salary of 2,800 yuan is no worse than that of ordinary white-collar workers. In addition, the work, accommodation, and food are also first class, which makes people who want to work in Kudongji's factories flock to it. It's just that the factory's recruitment standards are also very high, so those with better conditions won't be able to get in at all. Kudong Group's factories offer such high wages to their employees, which undoubtedly breaks the rules of the entire industry. Not only will they be squeezed out by their peers, it will also increase production costs and competitive pressure. Fortunately, the products are all film and television game peripherals sold in Europe and the United States. The cost is low and the profit is high. If the cost is increased, it is completely within the acceptable range. Of course, Kudong Group can implement the same wage standards as other domestic companies and enjoy the demographic dividend with peace of mind. This will not only lead to higher profits but also avoid trouble. But industry rejuvenates the country, and industry is the foundation of a country. Li Zhe knew what would happen 10 years later. After experiencing the glory of the world's factory, a labor shortage began to appear in the country. What's more important is the change in concept. At this time, high-income workers with some skills in the factory are still more respected. But 10 years later, as long as you work in a factory, even skilled workers will not be respected very much, and they will still be working in a bad job. No young people want to work in factories, they just want to be celebrities or internet celebrities. This change in concepts and attitudes is a huge problem. But no big country has risen by relying on the entertainment industry. Li Zhe does not seek to change the entire environment, but only wants to do something on a small scale. He now somewhat understands Richard Liu's thoughts. There are many people from lower class backgrounds who will exploit others even more when they become rich and powerful. Just like the owner of a small entertainment company who was an artist, he was exploited by his agency when he was an artist. After he became the boss, he intensified his exploitation of his artists. But there are also many successful people who come from lower class backgrounds. They are sentimental, understand the hardships of people at the lower classes, and want to do something. However, this kind of sentiment will be hit and worn away by reality, and Li Zhe doesn't know when the last bit of sentiment in him will disappear. Zhang Hongshan led Li Zhe to visit the workshop while giving an explanation. She also wanted the employees to stop first and introduce Li Zhe's identity to them. But Li Zhe didn't let her do this. He came to the factory to inspect and understand the situation, not to show off his identity or interfere with production. After visiting several workshops, it was already noon, and the workers got off work one after another and went to the canteen to eat. A supervisor following Zhang Hongshan said, "Mr. Li, it's almost time. Why don't we eat first? The hotel has been arranged." Li Zhe glanced at him and said, "There's no need to go to the restaurant. Let's go to the cafeteria to eat. I'll also try some work meals. The staff restaurant is large, the environment is neat and clean, and the dishes are quite rich. It feels no worse than ordinary foreign-funded enterprises." During lunchtime, the restaurant was full of workers coming to eat, and there was a long queue at the food window. The arrival of Li Zhe and the others attracted the attention of the workers, who all looked towards them. In such a short time, the news that the big boss of the group came to inspect has spread throughout the factory. Many female employees were watching, talking, and joking in low voices, and seemed very curious and interested in the big boss Li Zhe. Li Zhe didn't use his privileges and queued up for meals with Zhang Hongshan and others. In front of Li Zhe was a very young girl. She looked like she was not yet an adult. She was very delicate. If she had put on more makeup, she would have been a pretty girl. The girl frequently turned her head to look at Li Zhe, glanced at him and quickly turned her head away, as if she was peeking. "What's your name?" Li Zhe asked warmly with a smile. "Ah, my name is Yao Xiao Yan." The girl was stunned for a moment, then nervously said after she realized what she was doing, "How old are you and how long have you been employed?" "I am 17 years old and have been working for more than a month." "I am 17 years old, that is, I have just turned 16 years old. What do you think of the food in the cafeteria?" I think it's very good. The price is very cheap. The factory cafeteria of Kudong Group is not for profit, and the food is very cheap. 2 to 300 yuan a month is enough to eat, and 4 to 500 yuan can make you eat well. Li Jie chatted with Yao Xiaoyan for a few words and got to know her views. After waiting in line for dinner, he, Zhang Hongshan, Zhang Wenjun, Yu Xiangzi, and Bai Wei found an empty seat and sat down. There are too many people in the cafeteria, and there are many girls, making the environment very noisy. The seats are basically occupied, and there is no single empty table. Seeing Li Jie and Zhang Hongshan looking for seats with their dinner plates, the girls quickly gave up their tables. However, Li Jie did not let them give way. Instead, he and Zhang Hongshan found empty seats and sat down. Seeing Li Jie and Zhang Hongshan sit down, the two girls at the same table were obviously a little nervous. Li Jie took a look at them. They were average-looking and plainly dressed. The workers in this toy factory are all dressed normally. Those with dyed yellow or green hair, hair with explosive hair, or those with tattoos or restlessness were eliminated during recruitment. Eat this for you, Li Jie gave the chicken drumstick on the plate to the girl opposite. Not only does this girl dress very plainly, but she also eats very frugally. There is only one vegetarian dish, one rice, and a bowl of free soup on the dinner plate, which makes people look down on her. The cheapest set meal cost only 3 yuan and she wouldn't bear it. The 3 yuan set meal is half meat, one vegetarian, and enough rice. Mr. Li, no, there's really no need. The girl didn't expect that the big boss Li Jie would pick up food for her. She was stunned for a moment and hurriedly declined. Eat, I haven't touched my chopsticks yet, Li Jie said with a smile. I didn't mean that, the girl said in an inaudible voice, then lowered her head and started eating. How long have you been employed? While Li Jie was eating, he asked about the situation of the two girls. Although this cafeteria is also a big pot of rice, the taste is pretty good, at least much better than the food in the Hongqian Normal University cafeteria. After eating in the cafeteria, Li Jie went to Zhang Angshan's manager's office to rest for a while. In the afternoon, he went to visit the employee dormitory. The dormitories are all 6-person rooms, which are similar to ordinary student dormitories, but compared to the 8-person, 10-person, or even dozen-person rooms in many factories, the conditions are very good. And employees are only charged a nominal fee for accommodation and water and electricity. Li Jie is quite satisfied with the situation in the toy factory, which has basically met his expected standards. In this era, few domestic private factories offer such benefits. After inspecting the toy factory, Li Jie and his party went to a nearby clothing factory to have a look. The clothing factory obviously knew that Li Jie was coming and made emergency preparations, but the inspection results were not as good as those at the toy factory. By the time they left the clothing, it was already past 7 p.m. Li Jie and the others did not go back to Shanghai, but found a hotel in the city to stay. Tomorrow he will finish inspecting the remaining factories. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 508. Even though Yuwu is only a county-level city, due to the prosperity of small commodity trade, it has attracted a large number of businessmen from all over the world, and also attracted many large hotels to settle in. There are 12 hotels with 3 stars or above. The first thing Li Jie felt after arriving in Yuwu was prosperity, and the whole city was full of vitality. At this time, the local population of Yuwu was about 600,000 to 700,000, but the foreign population was as high as 1.5 to 2 million. The streets and alleys were full of people coming to do business and work, and about 2,000 large and small hotels were full every day. This is also the most dynamic period in Yuwu. When the e-commerce era comes, there will not be so many foreign residents. Li Jie and the other 9 people requested 5 rooms. Li Jie lived in one room by himself, Zhang Wenjun and Yu Xiangzi lived in one room, Bai Wei and female bodyguard Xu Mei lived in one room, and Shen Basehan, Zhou Chao and the 4 male bodyguards lived in 4 rooms. People live in 2 rooms. After entering the room and putting down his luggage, Li Jie took a shower first, then selected a bottle of red wine from the wine cabinet, sat down in the living room, and videotaped with Xiao Jiao and the others while tasting the wine. His room is a business suite, more than 50 square meters, with a small living room. Xiao Jiao seemed to have just taken a shower. He was only wearing a bathrobe and his hair was still a little wet. "Honey, are you alone?" She looked at Li Jie's room environment through the camera. "I'm not the only one, is there anyone else?" Li Jie said a little funny. "Humph, you can't tell. Maybe your little secretary is on the bed," Xiao Jiao snorted and raised her hand. Ahem, Li Jie just took a sip of red wine and almost choked. "What are you talking about? We have a serious superior-subordinate relationship." "A serious relationship?" Xiao Jiao looked unbelieving. "If you had no idea about her, Zhang Wenjun, would you specifically set up a secretary position for her?" This Xiao Jiao always tells the truth. "You moved back," Li Jie said, changing the subject. Looking at the background of the room, Xiao Jiao is obviously in her small duplex apartment. "Well, I'll come back and prepare for the exam in peace." Xiao Jiao pretended to be working hard. There is still 1 month left before the postgraduate re-examination. Xiao Jiao talks about preparing for the exam, but has no actual actions. Recently, she has been watching Gong Lockhart Jade. After watching it until midnight, she is much more energetic than studying. Gong Lockhart Jade was broadcast in February. Since Li Jie has produced several time travel dramas such as The Beloved Concubine and Love in Love for 1,000 Years in Advance, and the starring role has also changed from Yang Function to Yuan Shan, this version of Palace Lockhart Jade it is far from as popular as the original version, and its popularity can only be considered average. Casting is very important, and Yang Function is extremely suitable for the role of Luo Qing Chuan. But if Yuan Shan, who has no audience popularity, is replaced, the show will be half as bad. After chatting with Xiao Jiao for a while, Li Jie hung up the video, and then chatted with Zhou Ziyu for a while. He had too many girlfriends, and if they were all on the phone, he wouldn't have to sleep all night. Zhou Ziyu was also in the hotel, wearing a very sexy bare-shouldered black nightgown. When the video was connected, she stretched lazily, revealing her perfect figure and half hiding the beautiful scenery. This little elf. Li Jie couldn't help but feel hot in his heart. If it hadn't been thousands of kilometers away, he would have wanted to pull this little lover over and teach him a lesson. To be honest, he still has some determination. Otherwise, Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu and the others would be tempted like this every day, and they would have died young. "My hands are so sore," Zhou Ziyu said coquettishly, rubbing her hands and wrists. Her hands are particularly beautiful, slender, white, and tender, and truly slender, making people want to play with them. Zhou Ziyu also did some manicure, but it was not exaggerated. The pink and shiny nail polish made her beautiful hands look even more beautiful. Li Jie likes it the most, ahem. Recently, Zhou Ziyu's new book You Are My Glory has been released, and she has started a new round of book signing activities. After Zhou Ziyu finished writing The Best of Us, Li Jie gave her 2 new book outlines, one was The Beginning and the other was You Are My Glory. Although Zhou Ziyu liked The Beginning very much, she still chose You Are My Glory first. For a time loop theme like The Beginning, if you want to describe the suspense, thrill, and excitement through words, it will test your writing skills. After more than 3 years, Zhou Ziyu has changed a lot and her writing style has become quite mature. However, she wanted to write The Beginning really well and did not want to rush into writing. The book You Are My Glory is more about dealing with the publisher. She is now the best-selling female writer in China, and her last book, The Best of Us, sold more than 1 million copies. With over 1 million copies sold domestically, he is definitely a top-selling author. Now the publishing house is chasing Zhou Ziyu every day to push for manuscripts. The manuscript fee is easy to negotiate, as long as she is willing to write. The first printing of You Are My Glory has millions of copies. In order to promote the launch of the new book, a massive nationwide signing event was also held. From the perspective of the publishing house, You Are My Glory, which is full of idle drama elements, has more potential to be a hit than The Best of Us. This autograph signing event will involve holding more than 20 autograph sessions in more than a dozen major cities across the country, and Zhou Ziyu will have to travel outside for a month. In order to ensure her safety, in addition to the two female bodyguards Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi who would follow her closely, Li Jie also transferred 4 security personnel from the company to her. Zhou Ziyu just finished her autograph signing in Spring City during the day today. She will include Chuncheng as a signing city just to return home in glory. Li Jie chatted with Zhou Ziyu for a while, but the more they chatted, the more angry he became. Zhou Ziyu would stretch and bend down from time to time, flirting with him in a subtle way, and even inadvertently slipped off the shoulder straps of her nightgown. However, his little lover's skin was so fair and smooth, and his shoulders fell naturally. Xiao, go to bed early. Husband, you don't want to talk to me anymore, Zhou Ziyu said with anger and resentment. She looked at the time on her computer and said, it's only around 9 p.m. now. Have got to go. This little goblin is too torturous. If he keeps talking like this, Li Jie feels that he really won't be able to resist. He planned to wait until she went to the capital for a book signing, and then also go on a business trip to the capital to let this little fairy know the price of teasing her husband. Honey, wait a minute, seeing that Li Jie was about to turn off the video, Zhou Ziyu stopped him. What's wrong? Are you still busy? Husband, I miss you at night, what should I do? Seeing Zhou Ziyu's extremely charming appearance, the fire in Li Jie's heart suddenly ignited. She must be taught a profound lesson when she goes to the capital. After turning off the video, Li Jie let out a breath and prepared to take another shower. Take a cold shower. Ding dong, the doorbell rang suddenly. Who is here? Shanghai Stock Exchange. Xiao Hongbing worked overtime again until after 9 o'clock, in the evening. When he took a taxi back to the rental house, it was almost 10 o'clock. He sat down on the edge of the bed and fell on the bed tiredly. Xiao Hongbing majored in financial management. After graduation, he worked in finance for a large company. Overtime work in finance is very normal in China, especially for an accounting position like Xiao Hongbing. When he is busy, he works overtime almost every day. The difference is just more overtime and less. After working for more than half a year, he felt physically and mentally exhausted and didn't want to work anymore. Xiao Hongbing's family also asked him to go back, and then asked his connections to help him arrange a job. But Xiao Hongbing was unwilling to go back just like that. It was not that he liked the city of Shanghai, but that there were people in the city that he liked. When he was volunteering as a freshman in his sophomore year, he fell in love with Zhang Wenjun at the first sight and pursued her for more than 3 years. After such a long time, many suitors who were handsomer than Xiao Hongbing and better off than his family gave up, but he was the only one who persisted. His perseverance failed to impress Zhang Wenjun, but it impressed many people in the school. One girl even expressed her affection for Xiao Hongbing because of this. It's not that Xiao Hongbing has never thought about giving up, but Zhang Wenjun has never found a boyfriend, which makes him have a little hope in his heart, thinking that he will be the one waiting for her. Faith will move mountains to open. Xiao Hongbing knew that Zhang Wenjun wanted to stay in Shanghai, so he made a plan. After the two got together, he asked his parents to sell the wedding house prepared for him in his hometown, and then collected some money to make a down payment here in Shanghai. Buy a house with a small square meter. After lying on the bed and resting for a while, Xiao Hongbing sat up from the bed again and took out his mobile phone. He heard from a girl at school who was an intern at Kudong Group with Zhang Wenjun that Zhang Wenjun was on a business trip with their boss, which made Xiao Hongbing a little worried. Well, this girl is the girl who expressed her affection for Xiao Hongbing. Xiao Hongbing was afraid that Zhang Wenjun and his boss would take advantage of her. How many bosses don't take advantage of beautiful female employees? Just like the manager of their department, a beautiful female intern, he got her in less than a month after joining the company. Her boyfriend at school didn't know he had a colored hat on his head. What a piece of trash. He is already married and still cheating and toying with young girls. The phone rang for a while before the call was answered. Wenjun. Well. What's wrong with you? Zhang Wenjun hummed and said a little bit intermittently. Wenjun, what's wrong with you? Xiao Hongbing asked with concern. Listening to the voice, he felt that Zhang Wenjun seemed a little uncomfortable. It's nothing, I'm in the gym, doing some exercise. Zhang Wenjun was probably running, panting a little. If you have anything to do, just tell me quickly, she said impatiently. Xiao Hongbing didn't think much after hearing this. Wenjun, I heard that you were on a business trip with your boss. So what? Be careful, your boss has no good intentions. Let me tell you, the manager of our department. What are you talking about? Our boss and I have a very serious superior-subordinate relationship. Do you think anyone is as shameless as your manager? After hanging up the phone, Xiao Hongbing felt very lost. When will Zhang Wenjun realize how good he is? He sighed softly, stood up, and sat down at the computer desk, ready to watch a movie and relax. He doesn't have a girlfriend, so he can only watch movies to relieve his loneliness. Xiao Hongbing clicked on a folder on the F drive of his computer, selected a movie from it, and started watching it. After watching the movie for a while, he seemed to have thought of something, and his expression suddenly changed. Yu Xiangzi, who is upstairs from Li Jie, is also on the phone. Li Jie lives in a business suite on the 9th floor, and Yu Xiangzi and Zhang Wenjun live in a business twin room on the 10th floor. Xiangzi, have you and Mr. Li come to Zhejiang province? Yu Zhenmin said eagerly on the phone. Well, I followed Mr. Li here for inspection. Yu Xiangzi turned on the speaker phone, and while talking to her father, she applied a dark mask on her face. Then tell Mr. Li that I would like to treat him to a meal as a courtesy to the landlord. Dad, forget it. We have a busy schedule. No matter how busy your schedule is, you won't even have time to have a meal, right? Well, just help Dad. Xiangzi. Dad, what else do you want? I think Mr. Li is very good. He is young and promising. How about you consider? Dad, what are you talking about? He is my roommate's boyfriend. After hanging up the phone, Yu Xiangzi couldn't help but shook his head. Her father was obsessed with money, and even gave away his own daughter to make money. Ding dong, the doorbell rang at this time. Yu Xiangzi put down her phone, stood up and opened the door. Xiangzi, seeing a dark face peeking out from the door, Bai Wei was stunned for a moment before reacting. Wai Wei, what's wrong with you? Yu Xiangzi glanced at her and asked. Wenjun, is she here? She went to the gym downstairs to exercise. Do you have anything to do with her? It's nothing. After returning to the room, Bai Wei took out her mobile phone and dialed. Did she go to the gym to do some exercise? Xiao Qiao's tone on the other side of the phone was filled with surprise and suspicion. Sister Wei, can you do me one more favor? After hanging up the phone, Bai Wei sighed helplessly. This Xiao Qiao is really asking for trouble. Even if she really found out that Li Jie was there, what could she do? It's better not to know. With this thought in mind, she left the room again. Arriving at the elevator entrance, Bai Wei reached out and pressed the elevator button. After waiting for a while, the elevator door opened and Zhang Wenjun walked out. Wenjun. Wai Wei. Bai Wei and Zhang Wenjun looked at each other, both a little surprised. Zhang Wenjun seemed to have really done some exercise. He was wearing a cooler sportswear. His face was flushed, he was sweating a lot, and his breath was uneven. Wenjun, are you going to exercise? Well, I ran for a while in the gym downstairs. Why Wei, what are you going to do? I can't sleep a little bit. I want to go downstairs and take a walk. Then please be safe, it's already 11 o'clock, at night. Seeing Bai Wei walking into the elevator and the elevator door closing, Zhang Wenjun let out a breath and walked towards the room unnaturally. She accidentally stretched herself while doing exercises in the gym. Ding dong. Who is this coming again? Li Jie tidied up and was about to go to bed. Suddenly the doorbell rang again. He got up from the bed again, went to the door and opened the door, and then saw Bai Wei, wearing a business shirt and skirt, standing outside. Bai Wei, what's wrong with you so late? Xiaojiao, you asked me to check the post, Bai Wei said with a smile. She didn't find any reason and just sold Xiaojiao. I found a reasonable excuse to run to the boss's room this late at night. Li Jie was stunned for a moment, and then said a little funny, this Xiaojiao is serious. If you want to check the post, just tell me if you can check the video. Why bother you? Come on, come in, and take a look at her. You know Xiaojiao is like this, her ideas are always so surprising, Bai Wei said with a smile as she walked into the room. She didn't really want to come to Li Jie's place at first, she just wanted to visit the gym downstairs, but she changed her mind after meeting Zhang Wenjun in the elevator. There was a guess she wanted to verify. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 509. Bai Wei walked into the room, looked around, and found that Li Jie's clothes were thrown carelessly on the sofa, and there was an open bottle of red wine on the desk that had not been drunk much. The red wine in the decanter is filled with a faint aroma of wine. How about you go to the bedroom and take a look, Li Jie said with a smile. No need, Bai Wei turned her head and her eyes fell on the nightgown he was wearing. At this late hour of the night, it is easy for something to happen to a man and a woman alone. You'd better take a look. This will reassure Xiaojiao, Li Jie insisted. Bai Wei followed him into the bedroom. Her eyes fell on the bed first. The quilt on the big bed was lifted. It seemed that Li Jie was ready to sleep. Just when she was about to look elsewhere, she was suddenly hugged from behind by Li Jie. Mr. Li. Bai Wei, why don't we give it a try? Li Jie lowered his head and buried it in Bai Wei's neck, smelling her faint fragrance. It would be a pity for such a beautiful girl like her to stay single all her life. He had the responsibility to help her cure her illness. What are you trying? Bai Wei pretended not to understand and tried to break away from his arms. Li Jie said nothing and began to kiss her neck gently. Bai Wei stiffened and then struggled, Mr. Li, don't be like this, we can't let Xiaojiao be sorry. Li Jie still didn't speak, but kissed her harder. The two struggled like this for a while, Bai Wei's resistance became weaker and weaker, Li Jie's kiss moved higher and higher, and finally blocked her lips. Bai Wei hummed softly, her body instantly stiffened to the extreme, and she gave up resistance completely. Bai Wei, don't be so nervous, I won't do anything, I will. Li Jie said he wouldn't do anything, but he laid Bai Wei down on the big bed, and while continuing to kiss her, he gently caressed her white and slender legs. These legs, this figure, this face, they are absolutely stunning. If she stayed single all her life, it would be a waste of resources. He would never allow her to waste resources like this. No, don't. Bai Wei, I really don't want to do anything, I just... Well. Just when Li Jie was feeling proud, he suddenly couldn't help but groan in pain. Ah! Bai Wei, what are you doing? It turned out that when Li Jie reached out to untie Bai Wei's skirt, she pushed her knee on his stomach as a reflex, and then while he was in pain, She turned over smoothly and pinned him down. She pressed her long legs against Li Jie's waist, and then twisted his arms behind his back. This Bai Wei has definitely practiced self-defense, her movements are so clean and neat. But why did she use self-defense skills on him? He wasn't. Li Jie felt a little aggrieved. He, a grown man, was easily subdued by a girl. This was so shameless. He had also practiced, and his skills were no problem against one or two ordinary people, but he was careless. Who would have thought that a girl like her could have such good skills? Mr. Li, I'm sorry, Bai Wei seemed to react and let go of him, and apologized quickly. I have been practicing anti-wolf, self-defense skills for a while, and it's a bit of a conditioned reflex. Okay, forget it, what else could Li Jie say? Who asked him to bully others? You're pretty good at this. He looked Bai Wei up and down, always feeling that she did it on purpose. It's fair to say that it was a conditioned reflex to hold him up, but was it also a conditioned reflex later? To be honest, Li Jie was a little scared. If her knee had to be moved down a little, the consequences would be unimaginable. If it's true, then what should Xiao Qiao, Zhou Ziyu, and the others do? Faced with Li Jie's praise, Bai Wei smiled awkwardly but politely. Mr. Li, then I. As soon as she spoke, the phone on her body rang. Bai Wei took out her phone and took a look at it, then looked at Li Jie. Xiao Qiao's phone number. Give me the phone. Li Jie took the phone from her hand. Sister Wei, have you been there? Has he? Qiao Bao, it's me. Husband, why is it you? Xiao Qiao said in surprise on the other side of the phone. After Li Jie and Xiao Qiao finished talking on the phone, Bai Wei took the phone back and said, Mr. Li, it's very late, I'll go back first. Okay, I'll see you off. Li Jie sent her out the door. If Zhang Wenjun hadn't come over before and spent a lot of energy teaching her, he would never have let Bai Wei go so easily. As for her wolf defense, no, it's a self-defense technique. It won't be easy to use if he's on guard. Mr. Li, I'm leaving. Then after Bai Wei finished speaking, she turned around and left. Wait a moment. Li Jie suddenly stepped forward and hugged her from behind. I know you're not used to it yet, let's take it slow. Bai Wei said nothing, broke away from his arms, and left. Li Jie looked at her leaving back and smiled. Self-defense. He is really becoming more and more interested in Bai Wei now. What a scumbag, Bai Wei said in her heart as she walked into the elevator. When Li Jie put her down on the bed, she found a long hair on the bed. At first glance, it looks like a girl's hair. At that time, Bai Wei really wanted to massage Li Jie's vital parts to teach him a lesson. Just after bullying other girls, he wanted to bully her again, seamlessly. Maybe he didn't even take a shower. What did he think of her? But she suddenly remembered the warmth that Li Jie brought to her in the winter of her freshman year, when she was most helpless. The first impression is often the most important. No matter how bad Li Jie is, Bai Wei still has a good impression of him in her heart. In the next 2 days, Li Jie and his party went to inspect the remaining factories. The persons in charge of those factories had already heard the news of Li Jie's arrival and had made preparations in advance. Naturally, they could not find any major problems. However, when he inspected a small handicraft factory, Li Jie still discovered something unusual. This small handicraft factory is the smallest among several factories, with only 500 to 600 people. It mainly produces small handicrafts surrounding movies, television, and games, such as pillows, cups, keychains, mobile phone cases, etc. After the visit, Li Jie and the others went to the factory cafeteria to eat as usual and experience working meals. The food in this factory canteen is very good, even better than the food in that toy factory. But the food was so good that it made people suspicious. Besides, the expressions of the workers were not right. Many of them looked surprised, as if they had rarely eaten such good food. Li Jie asked several workers. At first, the workers were hesitant and did not dare to tell the truth, and some were covering up for the factory leaders. However, a bold male employee stopped and revealed the matter. It is said that the supervisor of the canteen must be greedy for money. Among the several factories of Kudong Group, the food in their factory is the worst and the food is the most expensive. People in other factories only need more than 200 to eat, but they want 3 to 400. Not only is it a food issue, the factory leaders also deduct overtime pay from employees. Other factories pay overtime at 150% of the wage, which is 15 yuan an hour, but theirs still pays 10 yuan. Overtime work on the half-day on Saturdays is even paid 200% of the wages, which is 20 yuan an hour, and they only get 15 yuan. After listening to this, Li Jie immediately suspended all the persons in charge of the factory, and then ordered the bodyguards to seal all the financial department information, and asked the company to urgently send someone to take over the factory affairs and audit the accounts. If no problem was found, he would personally apologize to them, but if a problem was found, he would call the police. Corruption in enterprises is unavoidable. As long as his subordinates don't go too far, Li Jie won't care too much about it. But the management of this factory was too bold. Not only did they embezzle employees' food expenses, but they also dared to blatantly deduct workers' overtime pay and stuff it into their own pockets. In fact, Li Jie came to inspect this time because he heard the news and came specifically to the factory. After seeing that Li Jie not only wanted to check the accounts but also called the police, the factory manager and supervisors immediately panicked. Several supervisors stood up and admitted their mistakes, were willing to resign, and return the embezzled money as much as possible. They just asked Li Jie not to call the police. But Li Jie didn't want to let them go just like that. After greedy for so much money, he could just resign. How could anything be so cheap? They must spit out the money they spent greedily, and the punishment they deserve must not be less. Corporate corruption is legally called the crime of job embezzlement. If the amount is larger than 10,000 yuan, it constitutes a crime and criminal liability must be pursued. Embezzlement of more than 100,000 yuan is considered a particularly huge amount of corruption and shall be punished with a fixed term imprisonment of more than 10 years. Each one of them will be sentenced to at least 5 years. After dealing with this group of corrupt management, the morale of several factories was shaken. Businesses are all about being friendly and making money. Even if someone is found to be embezzling, as long as the money can be recovered, the police will usually not be dealt with. But there is a saying that kindness does not control soldiers. If you want to manage a business well, you must not be soft-hearted. Li Jie did this not only to intimidate the management of several factories, but also to intimidate the company. As Kudong Group became larger and developed too rapidly, many problems arose. There is an extreme lack of middle and senior managers, and some departments and personnel have too much power, etc. Next, he will ask Lu Kaiyu and Bai Wei to lead the team to reorganize the company, strengthen the management of employees, and then attract more mid to high-end management talents to make management more professional and team-oriented. Before launching a new round of competition with the Penguins, we must first consolidate our foundation. Everyone is trained through experience. After 3 or 4 years, Li Jie is no longer an ordinary person and has transformed into a qualified business manager. He has 30 or 40 years of life experience, has read so many books, and has understood most of the principles. What he lacks is opportunity and experience. Li Jie's situation is a reflection of most ordinary people. When I was young, I had no experience, I didn't know how to plan, and I had no one to help me make plans. I muddled along, made a lot of mistakes, and failed to seize opportunities when I had them. I could only continue to accept the beatings from society and mature through lessons one after another, until really see through the rules of society. It's just that they didn't have a chance to come back like Li Jie. Even if you realize it, you have no chance to start over again. When people reach middle age, they are burdened with the burden of the entire family, and life is not easy. The night before returning to Shanghai after the inspection, Li Jie had a meal with Yu Jianmin at a 5-star hotel in Jiaxing. Yu Jianmin's clothing factory is here in Jiaxing. This time Yu Jianmin invited Li Jie to dinner for a purpose. This time he was not lying to his daughter. His factory was really in crisis. If it failed, not only would the factory close down, but he would also be in debt. After getting a big order worth tens of millions from Li Jie last time, Yu Jianmin got lucky and got 2 big overseas orders in succession. One of the orders was from a top European and American clothing brand, worth 30 million. If we can get a long-term OEM contract from that company, it will be better than working for Kudong Group. Yu Jianmin immediately became ambitious and felt that there was an opportunity to make the company bigger. Not only did he take out all the funds, he also borrowed tens of millions from friends and banks, and even mortgaged his RV to pay the deposit and expand production scale. A deposit is required for OEM processing. Otherwise, if the OEM fails to complete the work on time or the product quality fails, the recipient will suffer serious losses. The deposit for OEM is generally 30%. But what Yu Jianmin never expected was that the big order turned out to be a scammer. The deposit was paid, the factory expanded, and the raw materials were purchased, but the other party suddenly disappeared. After finally contacting that big European and American brand, I learned that they had never approached their factory for OEM. It stands to reason that Yu Jianmin should not be deceived because of his shrewdness, but no matter how smart a person is, he cannot tolerate greed. The deposit that was defrauded amounted to nearly 10 million, and together with the funds to expand production scale and purchase raw materials, Yu Jianmin lost 20 to 30 million in one fell swoop. Not only were decades of hard work in vain, but they were also saddled with tens of millions of dollars in debt. What's even worse is that the news that Yu Jianmin was deceived has spread, and creditors and banks are urging him to repay the money. Yu Jianmin is in urgent need of funds to meet emergency needs. As long as he is given time to slow down, lay off employees, sell equipment, and sell the purchased raw materials at a low price, he can pay off most of his debts and survive this crisis. 1 level. But now he doesn't even have the money to pay his employees. Hearing that Yu Jianmin wanted to borrow money, Li Jie was stunned for a moment, a little surprised. 6 million was nothing to him, it was just the cost of a car, but why should he lend the money to Yu Jianmin? His relationship with Yu Xiangzi is not worth 6 million. Besides, although Yu Jianmin didn't say the reason, he could tell that the other party was definitely in trouble and needed urgent funds. What if the trouble is difficult to solve and he still can't pay? Looking at Yu Jianmin, who had a lot of gray hair and a groveling look on his face, Li Jie smiled gently and said, "I can borrow the money. For Xiangzi's sake, I will definitely help if I can. But boss Yu, favors are favors, and rules are rules. According to the rules, borrowing requires a mortgage guarantee. I can give you the maximum mortgage valuation, and you don't need to pay interest, but you still need a mortgage." After hearing this, Yu Jianmin's expression suddenly froze. If he still has something to use as collateral, he will not be unable to borrow money. Yu Jianmin turned to look at his daughter as if asking for help. Noticing her father's gaze, Yu Xiangzi looked at Li Jie and hesitated to speak. In the end, he did not say his plea. When she saw her father this time, she was surprised and realized that her family's factory was really in trouble, otherwise her father would not have aged so much all of a sudden and his hair would have turned a lot gray. But Yu Xiangzi is not the kind of little girl who doesn't understand the world. She knows that 6 million is not a small amount, and Li Jie will not lend it out for nothing even if he has more money. Her friendship with Li Jie didn't reach that level either. She is just his girlfriend's roommate, a normal friendship. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 510. After returning to the hotel room after dinner, Li Zhe first took a hot bath to relax. Then he sat down at the desk, turned on the computer and started processing emails. Just after reading a few emails, the doorbell rang. He stood up and opened the door, and saw Zhang Wenjun wearing a light green floral suspender dress and a beige knitted cardigan standing outside with a smile on his face. "Brother Zhe. Come in," Li Zhe greeted Zhang Wenjun to come in and looked at her with a smile. "What's wrong, are you going for a run again today?" Zhang Wenjun blushed slightly after hearing this, feeling a little embarrassed. When she received a call from Xiao Hongbing 2 days ago, she was asking Li Zhe for advice on how to be a qualified personal secretary. She didn't want to be distracted from answering the phone, but Li Zhe insisted on letting her answer the call and said that it would not delay her studies. She almost made a fool of herself. Entering the room, Zhang Wenjun looked around and his eyes fell on the laptop on Li Zhe's desk. "Brother Zhe, are you dealing with company matters?" She especially likes career-oriented men and is extremely disgusted with men who only know how to hang around girls and have no career ambitions, licking dogs. Just like Xiao Hongbing, a grown man knows how to please girls all day long. What is his future? Yes, Li Zhe returned to the desk and sat down. "Sit down too," he pointed to the sofa beside him and said. Zhang Wenjun did not sit down on the sofa. Instead, he took off his beige knitted cardigan, revealing his white and tender shoulders, sexy collarbones, and the beautiful scenery half covered on his chest. "Brother Zhe, can I give you a massage to relax?" Li Zhe looked her up and down and said, "Okay." Zhang Wenjun walked up behind Li Zhe and wanted to give him a massage. Li Zhe pulled her over and asked her to sit on his lap. "Just press it like this." "Yeah," Zhang Wenjun hummed slightly, put his arm around Li Zhe's waist, rested his head on his shoulder, and started massaging his back. Li Zhe gently stroked Zhang Wenjun's back, enjoying her massage while continuing to process emails. It's fun for him to be the boss. However, before Li Zhe could enjoy it for long, the doorbell suddenly rang again. Zhang Wenjun got up from Li Zhe's arms and looked at him with questioning eyes. "It means, who is here?" Li Zhe patted her and said, "Go into the bedroom and I'll take a look." When Zhang Wenjun entered the bedroom, he stood up and straightened his nightgown, then walked over and opened the door. The person outside the door is Yu Xiangzi. She was wearing a black short dress with bare shoulders, and she was so beautifully dressed that Li Zhe couldn't help but be stunned. Some people are born with beauty, and some develop it. Yu Xiangzi can only be said to be pretty without makeup, but she has good foundation, tall figure, long legs and thin waist, and a delicate and cute face. With the help of superb makeup skills, she looks particularly fashionable and beautiful. She looks totally different with or without makeup. "Xiangzi, what's wrong with you?" Li Zhe's voice was a little high, reminding Zhang Wenjun in the bedroom. Yu Xiangzi looked a little preoccupied and didn't notice his actions at all. "Mr. Li, I have something to tell you." "Come in and talk." Li Zhe smiled and called Yu Xiangzi in, asked her to sit down on the sofa, and then brought her a bottle of water. "You have something to say?" "Mr. Li, my father was deceived." Yu Xiangzi didn't hide anything at all, telling exactly how Yu Zhenmin was deceived and the current situation in the factory. "If there is no emergency funding, not only will the factory close down, but my father will also be saddled with huge debts and may even go to jail." At this point, she paused and found it difficult to speak. "Mr. Li, I really have no choice but to ask you for help." 3 million. I want to borrow 3 million from you. I also know that the money is not a small amount, and I can't provide any collateral, but as long as it is something I can do, I am willing to do it. After careful calculation, Yu Xiangzi and Yu Zhenmin concluded that if the factory wants to survive this crisis, it will need at least 3 million in emergency funds. Li Jie didn't speak after listening, as if he was thinking about something. Yu Xiangzi looked at Li Jie, feeling full of anxiety, wondering if he would be willing to borrow the money. What if he doesn't borrow it? However, Yu Xiangzi was mentally prepared to pay anything as long as she could get money. Otherwise, she couldn't just watch her father go to jail with a huge debt, right? She has enjoyed the generous life of her family for so long, and it is time to repay her family. After a while, Li Jie glanced at Yu Xiangzi and said, "Wait a moment." After saying that, he stood up and picked up the briefcase placed aside, took out the checkbook from it, and wrote a check. "Here's a check for 3 million. Yu Xiangzi took the check from Li Jie in a daze. She really didn't expect to get the money so easily. "Mr. Li, thank you so much," she said with great gratitude. "I'll write you an IOU. Li Jie smiled, stopped her and said, "No need for the IOU, I believe you." Yu Xiangzi didn't expect him to say that. She looked slightly startled. After realizing it, she said, "No, I'd better write an IOU. This amount of money is not a small amount." "I said no, so no need." Li Jie smiled and said in a tone that could not be refused. He was not an ordinary person. Even if he didn't have the IOU, he wouldn't trust Yu Xiangzi and Yu Jianmin, father and daughter, to refuse to pay back the money, so he might as well be a superficial favor. In fact, the reason why Li Jie would lend money to Yu Xiangzi so happily was not because he had any thoughts about her or was greedy for her body. But she is worth the price. Although Yu Xiangzi is not famous, her makeup skills are definitely top-notch. The future value of a top makeup artist is definitely more than 3 million. Besides, Yu Xiangzi, a girl with high emotional intelligence and good conduct, is worth investing in. "Mr. Li, thank you," Yu Xiangzi expressed her sincere thanks again. "I will definitely repay this money as soon as possible." Li Jie chuckled and shook his head, "Don't worry, wait until you have money." "Mr. Li, then I won't disturb your rest anymore." Yu Xiangzi looked at the time and then stood up. "Okay, you should also go to bed early." Li Jie got up and sent her outside the door. Yu Xiangzi turned around, looked at Li Jie, suddenly stepped forward and hugged his neck, raised her head and kissed him actively. She and Zhang Wenjun are both short, one is 170 and the other is 168. With a height of 170 centimeters and high heels, she is not much shorter than Li Jie. Now the advantage of height is reflected. If you want to do something, you don't even need to put your toes on it. "Xiangzi, you don't have to do this." Li Jie said this, but did not push Yu Xiangzi away and allowed her to kiss him. Yu Xiangzi kissed Li Jie lightly on the lips and was about to let him go, but Li Jie suddenly hugged her slender waist tightly, lowered his head and kissed her lips again. Her lipstick was fruit-flavored and tasted good. He wanted to try it again. The kiss lasted for 5 or 6 minutes. It wasn't until Yu Xiangzi's body became weak and her lips were a little swollen that Li Jie let her go. "Since you feel it's a burden, I'll collect some reward," he said with a smile. Her kissing skills were too passive and unfamiliar, and she obviously had no experience. "Yeah." Yu Xiangzi's pretty face turned red and she hummed unsteadily. She just thought that Li Jie really wanted to bully her. "I am leaving." "Wait a minute," Li Jie called her again. Yu Xiangzi stopped and turned around, showing a questioning look. "If you encounter any difficulties again, you can tell me." The troubles in Yu Jianmin's factory can't be solved with $3 million. When she comes to beg him again, this price won't be the price she needs to pay. Her kiss is so expensive." Zhang Wenjun walked out of the bedroom at some point and said with some jealousy. She had been peeking out through the crack in the door in the bedroom just now. Li Jie gave her a good look, walked to the desk, picked up the checkbook, wrote another check for 1 million and handed it to her. "This is for you. Brother Jie, This is not why I am with you. Zhang Wenjun said this, but his eyes fell on the check involuntarily. Li Jie felt more and more amused and stuffed the check directly into her hand. Take it, use this money to buy a better car. He is now more willing to talk about money with girls than about relationships. Zhang Wenjun looked at the check in his hand, hesitated for a moment, and then collected it. Li Jie smiled and took out an access card and a bunch of keys from his briefcase. It's not safe for you as a girl to rent a house. I have a small house in Pudong, more than 150 square meters. You can move there. As he spoke, he hugged Zhang Wenjun from behind and put the access card and key in her hand. This product can really be installed. It's not big at more than 150 square meters. Zhang Wenjun looked at the access card and key in his hand, excitement flashing in his beautiful eyes. With a check of 1 million and a large house of more than 150 square meters, her wish to stay in Shanghai was easily achieved. Sure enough, when looking for a man, she must look for someone who is successful in his career and capable. If she finds an ordinary boy, she may not be able to live in this big house of more than 150 square meters in her life. Brother Jie, thank you, her voice was full of excitement and joy. Don't just say thank you with words. If you really want to thank me, express it with actual actions, Li Jie said with a smile. How to express it? Zhang Wenjun bit his lip and asked knowingly. Li Jie suddenly picked her up by the waist and walked to the bedroom. Speak with action. After the inspection, Li Jie and his party returned to the Shanghai Stock Exchange, and a few days passed quickly. That night, after Li Jie left the company, he did not go back to the apartment directly. Instead, he went to buy a few bouquets of roses. When he returned to the apartment, Xiao Qiao was surprised and a little happy when he saw the roses he was holding. Husband, why are you suddenly buying flowers today? This guy hasn't given her flowers for a long time. Isn't it a holiday for you today? Li Jie said with a smile while handing her a bouquet of roses. What holiday is this? Xiao Qiao took the rose. Today is the 8th. After saying this, Lu Kaiu, who came back with Li Jie, went back to the room holding a bouquet of roses. Number 8. Xiao Qiao reacted and stopped immediately. You are a woman, I am a girl. Girl? You stopped being a girl more than 3 years ago, and you're still pretty much a woman, Li Jie said funny. Then I am a girl too. As long as I am not married, I will be a girl. No, even if I get married, I'm still a girl. Li Jie teased Xiao Qiao a few words and then said, Qiao Bao, have you been quite free recently? Where do I have free time? The postgraduate re-examination will be held next month. I am very busy. Okay, Xiao Qiao pretended that I was almost too busy. Li Jie nodded after hearing this. Okay, since you are so busy, just wait a little longer. What are you waiting for? I thought, if you are not busy, you should go and look at wedding dresses first, but you are so busy. Wedding dress, Xiao Qiao said loudly in surprise. Hey, please keep your voice down, Li Jie couldn't help but say. If Lu Kaiu, Shen Xinyi, and the others heard it, the jealousy would definitely be overturned again. Although this matter cannot be hidden, it can be postponed for one day. Xiao Qiao excitedly jumped on Li Jie and clamped his waist with her legs. Honey, are we going to take wedding photos? Didn't I promise you that we would take wedding photos together when we graduate? We will graduate in 3 months, Li Jie said with a smile. Honey, you're so good. Xiao Qiao excitedly hugged Li Jie's neck and kissed him hard on the face. Hey, okay, don't thrust, don't kiss me, you're drooling all over my face. Li Jie felt like a cabbage being picked on by a pig. If Xiao Qiao knew that this guy Li Jie compared her to a pig, he would definitely bite him to death. Obviously she is a cabbage and Li Jie is a pig, but he is still a wild boar who only goes around chasing cabbage. Husband, after we take the wedding dress, when will the wedding be held? Xiao Qiao asked hopefully. Li Jie glanced at her and said, "Aren't you busy?" Or, "I'm not busy anymore, not at all," Xiao Jiao said with a flattering smile. Li Jie stopped teasing her and said seriously, "We will take wedding photos in June and get married in July. You let your uncle and aunt pick a good day." Xiao Jiao was about to scream out in excitement, but suddenly she thought of something again and hesitated to say, "Husband, then let's." "Don't worry, get your certificate." Li Jie smiled lovingly and rubbed her head. "I said I would marry you, and I will definitely do it." He knew what Xiao Jiao was worried about. Marriage without a certificate is a scam. How could such a serious person like him do such a rogue thing? Xiao Jiao's eyes turned red after hearing this, and she had the urge to cry, "Husband, you are so kind." There was a cry in her voice. Then she kissed Li Jie fiercely on the face again. "Hey, why are you humping me again?" Li Jie said helplessly. "Arch." This time Xiao Jiao finally heard that something was wrong. "You said I am, you are the pig, you big pig's hooves who go around grabbing cabbage." She first laughed and hit Li Jie, then her nose became sore and she couldn't help but shed tears. She has finally waited for this day. Xiao Jiao couldn't even imagine what she would do if Li Jie didn't marry her, but married Zhou Hu. Li Jie sighed softly in his heart and held her tightly in his arms. Seeing Xiao Jiao so excited, he felt a little uncomfortable. Fortunately, he didn't let Xiao Jiao down, otherwise I really don't know what she would have become. In fact, Li Jie was not unwavering, but in the end he chose to stick to his original intention. If he failed Xiao Jiao, he would really be a scumbag. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 511. March 12, Saturday. Xiao Hongbing finally didn't have to work overtime this weekend. He originally planned to take a rare late sleep, but he still got up early after thinking about Zhang Wenjun. After thinking about it carefully, he felt that he might have misunderstood Zhang Wenjun. He actually thought she was with another man. He called and sent messages to question her, which made her angry. She stopped answering his calls and messages. He was so stupid that he took the movie seriously. A good girl like Zhang Wenjun, who has stayed clean for 4 years in college, how could she easily mess around with others? Xiao Hongbing decided to buy a bouquet of flowers and a small gift, and then went to Zhang Wenjun to apologize. After buying a bouquet of 19 roses and then a Dior lipstick, he took a taxi and went straight to Zhang Wenjun's rental community. Xiao Hongbing originally wanted to buy a bouquet of 7 roses, but after the female owner of the flower shop heard that he wanted to apologize to his girlfriend, she suggested that he buy a bouquet of 19 or 33 roses, which would not only be more sincere but also meaningful. Better too. After hearing this, Xiao Hongbing thought it made sense. In addition, the female flower shop owner was also quite young and beautiful, so he bought a bouquet of 19 roses, which represented waiting for companionship, lifelong waiting, and the highest point of love. As for the 33 roses representing 3 lives and 3 lives, they cost 208 yuan per bouquet, which was too expensive for him to afford. Xiao Hongbing would be content as long as he could be with Zhang Wenjun for the rest of his life. When Xiao Hongbing arrived at Zhang Wenjun's rental house, he found that she was not at home and knocked on the door, but there was no response. When he called Zhang Wenjun, he couldn't get through. She seemed to have blocked him. The line was always busy. There was no way, Xiao Hongbing could only wait downstairs. When you see a tall and handsome boy standing downstairs with flowers and gifts, the residents passing by can't help but look at him twice, and some aunts and aunts who mean well will ask a few questions. It was almost noon, but Zhang Wenjun still hadn't come back. Xiao Hongbing got tired of standing, so he sat down on the chair in front of the unit building, and put the roses aside casually. At this time, an old man walking his dog came over and stopped when he saw Xiao Hongbing. "Young man, are you waiting for someone?" "Waiting for your girlfriend." "Yes, Waiting for my girlfriend. Xiao Hongbing stood up and said. Although Zhang Wenjun has not accepted him yet, Xiao Hongbing has long regarded her as his girlfriend. Then why don't you call her and just wait here? She was angry with me and wouldn't answer the phone. That's it? Then tell me what your girlfriend looks like. I live in this unit, so I might have an impression of her. She is very beautiful and tall. She drives a car. You're talking about the little girl. After hearing this, the uncle looked at Xiao Hongbing with a look of surprise. His eyes looked a little strange. What's wrong, sir? Xiao Hongbing felt a little uncomfortable when he looked at him. Why did he feel that there was sympathy in this man's eyes? The uncle hesitated to speak, shook his head and said, "Stop waiting, that little girl hasn't come back for a week." You haven't been back for a week? Xiao Hongbing was stunned for a moment and asked quickly, "Uncle, has she moved away?" I don't know that. The uncle looked at Xiao Hongbing and couldn't help but say one more thing, "Xiao Huazi, I'm telling you, it's better not to find someone too beautiful when looking for a girlfriend, it's not safe." One night more than a week ago, he saw the little girl and a man nibbling each other in front of a luxury car. The man was obviously not the young man in front of him. Today's little girls are very vain. If they have no money and insist on finding a beautiful girl, they will be like this little flame, and they may be cuckolded at any time. Thinking of this, the uncle shook his head and walked into the building. Don't look for something too beautiful, is it unsafe? Xiao Hongbing touched it, and when he thought about it, his expression suddenly changed. He wanted to ask the uncle again if he knew anything, but found that the other party had already left. Buzz, buzz. Suddenly, there was a roar of a sports car from behind, from far to near. Xiao Hongbing turned around and saw a red convertible Porsche Boxster driving over from a distance. The Porsche Boxster is the 718, but it doesn't have the name 718 yet. The Porsche sports car stopped in a parking space not far away, and a tall, beautiful, and fashionable girl stepped out of the car. Xiao Hongbing looked at Zhang Wenjun in disbelief. After not seeing her for more than half a month, her face was radiant and she became more beautiful and attractive. Her clothes had also become high-end brands, and she was holding a Dior bag in her hand. An authentic Dior bag costs at least tens of thousands. Where did she get the sports car? Where do you get the money to buy these high-end clothes and bags? Did she really become someone else's lover? Thinking of this, Xiao Hongbing felt a severe pain in his heart, as if he was bleeding, and his face became extremely ugly. He has been pursuing Zhang Wenjun for more than 3 years. Although she has never accepted him, he already treats her as his girlfriend in his heart. When he thought that she might have been suppressed by another man, Xiao Hongbing felt as if he was being cheated on. Thinking of the uncle's sympathetic gaze, he felt so uncomfortable that he almost went crazy. Zhang Wenjun had a smile on his face and was in a good mood. After returning to Shanghai with Li Jie after the inspection, she simply packed her things that day and moved from the rental house to Li Jie's big house. She didn't want to stay in this rental house for more than a day. Last weekend, Zhang Wenjun went to the Porsche Ford store to pick up a ready-made Boxster, and then went to buy hundreds of thousands of high-end clothes, cosmetics, and bags. When they were in school, there was a girl in their dormitory who was a rich second generation whose family had some money. She always liked to show off the high-end clothes and cosmetics she bought, and she especially liked to show off in front of Zhang Wenjun. Just because a boy she likes Zhang Wenjun. Zhang Wenjun treated her indifferently on the surface and disdained to compare with that girl, but in her heart she was very envious and jealous of her. Now she finally got her wish. She came here this time to make an appointment with the landlord, to pack up the remaining things and return the house. Zhang Wenjun, suddenly a loud shout came from beside him. Zhang Wenjun turned around and saw Xiao Hongbing walking over angrily. "Why are you here again?" she stopped her smile and said impatiently. For more than 3 years, this Xiao Hongbing has always come to pester her, which is really annoying. It's really licking the dog, until there is nothing left. Whose car does this belong to? Are you really your boss's lover? Xiao Hongbing asked angrily and painfully. Does this have anything to do with you? Zhang Wenjun said coldly before avoiding the other party. Xiao Hongbing stopped her again. Does it have anything to do with me? I've liked you for 3 years, don't you know? Wenjun, I really like you. I would do anything for you. But your boss just sees you as beautiful and wants to have fun with you. Are you going to sell yourself for money? The more Xiao Hongbing talked, the more uncomfortable and angry he felt. I especially think of Zhang Wenjun's strange voice when he called me that night. Like a fool, he really thought she was running. Thinking of this, Xiao Hongbing reached out angrily and grabbed Zhang Wenjun's arm. Seeing Xiao Hongbing's excited look, Zhang Wenjun took a step back in fear. Xu Mei, who came with Zhang Wenjun, stood in front of her, grabbed Xiao Hongbing's arm, and pushed him to the ground with his backhand. Afraid of being cheated? No, just afraid that Zhang Wenjun would get numb in some way, so Li Jie temporarily placed Xu Mei next to her. Let me go. Xiao Hongbing still wanted to struggle, but Xu Mei pushed his knee hard into his waist, and he immediately stopped struggling. Zhang Wenjun glanced at Xiao Hongbing, who was pinned to the ground, and then at the people attracted by the silence, feeling a little helpless. Xiao Hongbing, I've told you before, we are not suitable. Xiao Hongbing interrupted her with a cold snort and said, of course it's inappropriate. You want to be with rich people, but I'm just an ordinary person. Seeing his appearance, Zhang Wenjun was too lazy to say anything more and said to Xu Mei, forget it, let him go. After Xu Mei heard this, he immediately let go of Xiao Hongbing. Xiao Hongbing got up from the ground, rubbed his arms and waist, looked at Zhang Wenjun with great disappointment, turned around and left. However, after walking a few steps, he stopped again, turned around and said in a firm tone, Wenjun, sooner or later you will regret it. Regret. Looking at Xiao Hongbing's leaving figure, Zhang Wenjun smiled faintly. If she really chose an ordinary boy like him, she would regret it for the rest of her life. Even if Li Zhejian was just playing with her, she would admit it. Zhang Wenjun threw away most of the things in the rental house, leaving only a few clothes and some commemorative items. Although these clothes were not very valuable, she bought them with money from her hard work part-time job, and she liked them very much at the time. After taking one last look at the small rental house where she had lived for nearly a year, Zhang Wenjun and Xu Mei left together. After driving his Porsche out of the community, Zhang Wenjun did not go back to his residence in Pudong. Instead, he went to a specialty restaurant on the Bund. Wenjun, you're here. We've been waiting for you for a long time. Seeing Zhang Wenjun and Xu Mei come in, 2 of the 3 girls sitting by the window in the restaurant stood up and said hello with a smile. Explain. Only one girl dressed in a fashionable and avant-garde style did not get up with a reserved smile on her face. These 3 girls are Zhang Wenjun's college roommates, and they have made an appointment to get together today. I'm sorry, something was delayed, Zhang Wenjun said with an apologetic smile. It doesn't matter, just come here, a petite and cute girl said with a smile. This girl's name is Ji Qingqing, and she has the best relationship with Zhang Wenjun in the dormitory. Who is this? Ji Qingqing's eyes fell on Xu Mei next to Zhang Wenjun. This is Xu Mei, a colleague from my company. After several girls sat down again, the girl who was dressed in a trendy and avant-garde style looked at Zhang Wenjun and was a little surprised. She is the girl who always likes to show off in front of Zhang Wenjun. Her name is Baoliqian. Not only Baoliqian, Ji Qingqing and another girl were also a little surprised. Wenjun, I haven't seen you for a while, you have become even more beautiful. In fact, what they are concerned about is not that Zhang Wenjun has become more beautiful, but that her clothes and bags are all high-end goods. Wenjun, is this bag of yours the new Dior model? Can you let me have a look? Ji Ching glanced at the bag Zhang Wenjun put on the table, and her eyes lit up. Zhang Wenjun smiled, picked up the bag and handed it to her. Ji Ching carefully took the bag and looked at it carefully. This bag is so beautiful. I heard that this package costs more than 30,000 yuan. Wenjun, are you getting rich? My boyfriend gave it to me. It's not like you don't know that I can't afford such an expensive bag, Zhang Wenjun said with a faint smile. Wenjun, have you got a boyfriend? Ji Ching and another girl suddenly became interested when they heard this. In the past 3 years of college, I don't know how many boys have chased Zhang Wenjun, but they have never seen her fall in love. I don't know what kind of boy she would like. How did you meet? How old is he? Is he handsome? They asked. Baolikin suddenly interjected, Wenjun, did your boyfriend buy this bag in a specialty store? There are a lot of A-grade products now, so you have to be careful. Ji Ching looked at the bag in her hand again. The workmanship of Wenjun's bag is genuine. It's unlikely to be fake. Zhang Wenjun glanced at Baolikin and said, I don't know where he bought it from, but it's impossible for him to give me a fake. This bag was not given by Li Jia at all, but she bought it from the official Dior store. How could it be a fake? Baolikin smiled disapprovingly, you can't say for sure. Nowadays, some high imitation goods look just like the real ones, and ordinary tellers can't tell them apart. I heard that some second-generation fake rich people specialize in buying high imitation goods like this to give to girls. At this point, she said glanced at Zhang Wenjun and said, Wenjun, don't think too much about it, I have no other intentions. Zhang Wenjun smiled playfully, don't worry, I won't think too much about it. After finishing their meal, the 5 girls walked out of the restaurant together. Baolikin glanced at Zhang Wenjun and said with a smile, how about we go shopping on Huihei Road? I also like a new bag. Okay, Ji Ching and another girl agreed. Zhang Wenjun did not object. Arriving at the parking lot, Baolikin walked up to a red BMW Mimi, took out the car key and pressed it. The car's lights suddenly flashed twice. Boarding. Halfway through her words, she glanced at Zhang Wenjun and Xu Mei, and said as if remembering something, my car is a 4-seater and can't seat 5 people. Why don't you squeeze in? Then let me squeeze in, shall I? Ji Ching said. Zhang Wenjun smiled and said, no need, I'll drive here too. After saying that, she took out her car key and pressed it, and then she saw a convertible red Porsche sports car next to the BMW Mimi. It made a beeping sound and its lights flashed twice. The 3 girls, Baolikin and Ji Ching, were obviously stunned for a moment. Wenjun, does this sports car belong to you? Ji Ching said in great surprise. They had noticed this beautiful Porsche sports car just now, but they did not expect that it belonged to Zhang Wenjun. Well, he gave it to me, Zhang Wenjun nodded and said. In fact, it was only after seeing Baolikin's BMW Mimi that she deliberately parked the Porsche next to it. It was also a gift from your boyfriend. Ji Ching and the others listened with envy in their eyes. Wenjun, you didn't find a rich second generation, did you? This move is too easy. It's good to be beautiful. If you find a boyfriend with good conditions, you'll have everything. Baolikin's face was not very pretty. She had just said that the bag sent by Zhang Wenjun's boyfriend might be a fake bag, and she was slapped in the face. How could someone who can even afford a Porsche give away a fake bag? Wenjun, who is your boyfriend? Ji Ching and the others asked curiously. Did we meet during your internship? Zhang Wenjun smiled, changed the subject and said, let's get in the car. Although she wanted to show off, it was not convenient for Li Jia's identity to be revealed. Who told her to be just a lover? Seeing that Zhang Wenjun refused to reveal who her boyfriend was, Baolikin viciously guessed that the other party must be being kept by an old man, so she was so secretive. At this time, I heard Zhang Wenjun say, Likin, you have been driving this Mini for several years. Have you ever thought about changing to another car? After a pause, she said in a joking tone, not many people now say that this is a lover's, mistress, car. As a lover, she still has the nerve to ridicule others. It's like a thief shouting to catch a thief.